On this upcoming Attractions episode, we're talking WandaVision, the series finale, plus the premiere of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, also the trailer for Suicide Squad, Wrath of Man, and more. Plus our reviews for Godzilla vs. Kong, Judas and the Black Messiah, Bad Trip, Boss Level, and it's finally here, Zack Snyder's Justice League. All that and more on Midnight Double Feature.
It's good to be back, ladies and gentlemen. It's good to be back in the chair behind the mic. We have a big episode planned, like you just heard. Falcon the Winter Soldier, the Suicide Squad, rather. Godzilla vs. Kong, Judas and the Black Messiah, Bad Trip, Boss Level, Zack Snyder's Justice League. But before we get to that, I'm going to introduce my intrepid co-host, Matthew Vella. What's happening, Matt?
I'm good. I'm also Googling the definition of intrepid because I don't know that.
You know what? I had to Google it after Colin called me that all the time after introducing me on the episode. So I was just like, what the fuck does that mean? All right.
I love it's a theme now. It's a running joke or something. Intrepid, I can't find it. I'm spelling it wrong. Doesn't matter. I want to assume it's a good thing. Welcome back. Ladies and gentlemen, we took a week off for the first time in, maybe 2 years the other week from upcoming attractions?
I don't think it's that long. I don't think it's that long. I think we've taken longer breaks. Breaks since then, right? I mean, if I had to check, I guarantee you I'd find a break in there somewhere.
It's been a while.
It is a long time, though.
We haven't.
It is a long time.
It's very rare we miss an episode, but we did miss an upload. We had something to fill the gap. So, man, I don't know. Good for us. We're very professional at this. Good for us.
Thank you so much to Han Soto, actually, for stepping in. That was a great interview. Han talked about his time with Logan and his upcoming movie called Reminiscence. Directed by Lisa Joy, which is pretty awesome. He talked about his time on Cobra Kai, which was fucking badass. He was an awesome interview, dude. And I honestly, I'd love to have him back on sometime. He was fantastic. But yeah, man, I've been good. Just been doing some personal / life-changing stuff. Moved into a new place, which is nice, which is good. So that's kind of why I've had nearly a month off. So thank you so much to the listeners for your patience, and thank you so much to firstly yourself, Matt, Colin, and Danny for kind of taking the reins. And it's not that I have the reins; it's just you guys really stepped up and you guys really, hit the ball out of the field, so to speak. If this was Fenway Park, you'd fucking knock it out to Lansdowne Street, right? I mean, it was, you guys really stepped up. So I really appreciate it, man. And, also special thanks to Matt Prater as well, who jumped on for the Contact episode. He's going to be helping Colin out again very shortly in a yet to be announced episode. So stick around for that if you did like Matt's input. But also something that I really wanted to mention as well. Congratulations, dude. We made it to 3 years old.
Yes. It's pretty great. I think I've been here. Well, I was a guest technically on the third episode or fourth or something. Maybe it was within the first 10, and then I became I was pretty much in on the ground floor, I guess in a way, because I featured on a lot before.
You were doing cameos. You were doing cameos before you became the series regular kind of thing.
Yeah, but no, it feels good. It feels it's almost like we take this seriously, so that's a good thing.
I know.
And low key, I'm for those who haven't seen it on the socials, I made a little fake movie poster for us to celebrate, and I slapped that together pretty quickly. But I'm pretty proud of how it turned out. It looks all right. So toot my own horn there a little bit.
Pretty good.
3 years, man. Do you ever think we'd make it to 3 years?
I'm not gonna lie, man. When we started the podcast, I had so much going on. I was still at uni, and I was yet to be admitted as a lawyer, so I was kind of this is technically going to be temporary-ish. When I get a full-time lawyer gig, I just won't have time for this. And lo and behold, 3 years later, I've had a lawyer gig for 2+ years. And I have time. I keep finding time, or I keep making time. And that's no that's no small feat. And I kind of have to thank my family, my girlfriend, and my friends for kind of having the patience to support me with this particular project. So yeah, doing this for 3 years, dude. It's kind of become a part of my life, right? This is I've been I missed out for a month, the last month. And like I said to you, dude, I'm kind of like dying. I'm itching to get behind the mic again and just talk about movies again because, it's just such a kind of like escape, if you're listening to this, if the audience is listening to this, that to me is a bonus. It's more of like a thank you so much for listening through our thoughts kind of thing,
Yeah, man. Like I think with any creative or performative endeavor, it's that's kind of how it's like, man. Like me. I had a podcast back in 2012 or something. Well, it wasn't mine. I was like, there's a lot of us who are on it, and that was a weekly thing. And then I remember that it's fucking horrible, by the way. We recorded over Skype, and we all sound like robots. It was fucking shit. But that became a thing. And then we stopped doing that. It felt like it felt like I was missing something because it's routine. And around the same time, I was in a band. When I stopped being in a band, without the weekly jams and whatever, it felt like something was missing too. Like routine it's really important, but it's also good to have these sort of like outlets for expression too. So it's good, man. It's good to make this stuff part of your life.
Absolutely, dude. I 100% agree. Are you what have you been up to during this sort of like month-long hiatus?
So right now I am prepping I'm doing a stand-up gig at Melbourne International Comedy Festival. That's exciting. Gonna go on a plane. I'm first time traveling in a long time like that. That's exciting. I've been playing a lot of video games. I finished Resident Evil 3. I got Final Fantasy Remake from PS Plus, which was free. Great. It feels like I feel like I'm robbing them. It's such a good game for free. Let me ask you this, man. Like I've been watching a lot of between Star now on Disney Plus and Binge, which I had to get to watch Justice League. I've been enjoying like a whole new library of shows on my streaming platforms. I'm actually thinking of canceling Amazon Prime until The Boys season 3 comes out just to keep up with it all. Have you been watching much of Binge at all, man? I've been really into it.
Yeah, so Binge, for those who are listening overseas, Binge is a Australian streaming platform, and basically it's got all of the HBO stuff, and it's owned by Foxtel. Foxtel is part of the Murdoch sort of empire, but yeah, so Binge is good, man. I've had Binge for a very long time. It's mainly because of HBO. I mean, like HBO to me is like top tier television, right? I mean, like that more often than not, they knock it out of the park. They have shows like The Leftovers on there, and that's where I kind of like binge Leftovers, which kind of changed my life. That show is just mind blowing. But yeah, like I think Binge has a solid library. And getting kind of like exclusives like Zack Snyder's Justice League is pretty wild.
Yeah, man. Like a lot of these new streaming platforms keep popping up, and a lot of time, like for example, Disney Plus when it first came out, it felt like a waste of money. And then when they finally got The Mandalorian, it was great, but it was only one show. It wasn't until they got Star, I felt like, oh, it's a real streaming platform now. But with Binge, like they sort of hit out of the gate straight away. Like maybe I was late to getting it, but there were so many good shows on there. There's this one show I've been wanting to watch for ages called Dave. I finally got to check out. That was cool. I'm watching right now Walton Goggins and Danny McBride's show Vice Principals. That's
Vice Principals. Yeah, I've watched that. Yeah,
that's
a good show.
It's so like Danny is just so himself. It's like he just took his performance from This Is the End and just copy paste. Here we go, more of that, and it's fucking great. Just seeing him swear at kids it never gets old to me. But yeah, man, it's a good time for watching TV. What's been up with you, man? What's been happening besides the move?
I haven't been watching any TV at all. I really just haven't had time to watch TV. I've been watching movies because, I keep finding sort of like pockets of time kind of thing. So like, I've recently moved places and I live now a lot closer to a cinema than I did before, which, I was not very far from a cinema before anyway. But, I've been kind of like, during this move, my girlfriend and I, we've just been kind of like doing this sort of like, let's blow off our responsibilities for today and let's just go watch a movie. So that's why, I've been able to watch as much as I have. Like this kind of like sort of run in the last month is the most times I've been to a movie in a while. Mostly just to kind of like get away from responsibilities. And most of these movies we'll be talking about tonight on the episode, and I can't wait to get to them. But yeah, I really haven't been doing much sort of like entertainment wise. Haven't been playing much PlayStation, haven't been watching TV, haven't been working on the podcast. It's just kind of like, fully kind of like stepping away from the podcast,
just being an adult.
Because because I also kind of like in the middle of uni right now as well. So like, my master's is like going strong. It's the last semester, so I can't fuck up, right? I mean, like if I fuck up, then, I got to do a whole nother fucking semester, and it's just like, God damn it. But yeah, that's pretty much it, man. What do you say we get into this episode?
Yeah, let's knock it out.
Fuck yeah. All right. Well, look, this is going to start off with a bit of a downer, but it has to kind of be mentioned because we like to kind of like get the news out of the way first before delving into sort of like the actual released content that we're going to talk about. So rest in peace, Jessica Walter. I mean, she passed away at the age of 80. She was a prolific television actress, primarily television. Mostly known for, I want to say, Arrested Development, but also Archer as well for our age. That was kind of like shocking, man, because like I am a huge fan of Arrested Development.
Yeah, man. Well, I think something that stood out for me with her and her, I guess with those two shows in particular, is she's one of those actors, and she may not be, I don't know if she'll be remembered like, like the Will Smiths and the Tom Cruises out there. But like much like in the vein of those type of actors, she's managed to find a way where it's like, this is who I am, this is who I play, and she's very true to like, it's like a path she carved herself. Because like, how many other shows can you think where they have that archetype of like the bitchy authority figure,
the stern mother,
like there aren't a lot. Like you wouldn't. It almost feels like shows like Archer and Arrested Development might have been written for her, or maybe it all came out because of Arrested Development. I'm sure maybe that's more likely. But like, I wouldn't imagine her as like, I know, the mum in Everybody Loves Raymond, or, I couldn't see her like that. Like, I think I just find it's really like, it's a huge achievement for an actor to become, they're that type of actor that does that. Like before I was mentioning Danny McBride, he just swears at kids and stuff, and it's like, that's like him and this is the end. Like the fact that you can go, you're the person who does this really good, like that's actually a massive achievement. And like shout outs to her because she's fucking funny in both those shows in particular, man.
Well, that you just hit the nail on the head. That's the other kind of like factor. You can be good in a role, but to be funny in a role, like to actually like make people laugh with the deadpan humor, like it's not like that she cracked jokes like Eddie Murphy, right? I mean, like she lived in that whole like deadpan humor kind of like area, so my favorite moments of hers in Arrested Development are when she's just ragging on Portia de Rossi's character in Arrested Development because she doesn't work or she doesn't do anything. she's just so good. And I'm so glad that Arrested Development and her other roles are kind of like cemented in time. So like if you want to go back and experience the powerhouse that was Jessica Walter, you always can. So rest in peace to Jessica Walter. That was a pretty big loss. Pretty wild.
Do you know, were they going to do another Arrested Development seaon? I think there was talk.
No, I think they were done.
Okay,
I think they were done.
So I think there's one left in Archer, which is a show I kind of gave up a few seasons ago. But I think there's going to be one left. Like I'm just always curious, like when an actor fortunately passed away, like the ways that they write characters out, I always find interesting. I'm on IMDb now just to wrap up. There's a show I've been really wanting to watch. Apparently she's a voice actor in it. The Harley Quinn show. Apparently she plays someone.
Yeah, with Kaylee Cuoco. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been really wanting to check that show out. So yeah.
Let's move on. Let's move on to something that has been in the zeitgeist. Well, kind of like come and gone, right? I mean, like, and because, we're between episodes here. It's been a while. We haven't talked about the WandaVision finale, the series finale, as it's called. And we're going to spend a little bit of time on this because, this is obviously, we covered every episode, more or less on the upcoming attractions. So this is going to be interesting to talk about. And I don't know your thoughts at all. Everything that we're going to talk about tonight, probably other than Zack Snyder's Justice League, I don't know your thoughts about. So let's talk about WandaVision. Let's talk about the series finale. My first question is, were you satisfied with the finale?
Yes. It's a yes with an asterisk. And it's funny. It's and this is going to tie into my thoughts on Falcon and Winter Soldier. It's like I got what I wanted, but I realized it's not what I wanted in a way, where it's like we finally got a full action-packed Marvel movie blockbuster episode. And it's like, it's fine. And it's funny because it gives me memories of the Game of Thrones finale, where I think with the finale,
wow, that's a ringing endorsement.
Okay, let me explain, because I am a little bit less critical than most. But with the finale of Game of Thrones, I feel like they ticked a lot of boxes they needed to tick, but it still didn't satisfy fans. Now, what doesn't help with them is that they had a fucking terrible season leading into that finale, and this had a great season. But this show, it didn't hide anything. It built up to this, and it gave us pretty much what it promised. But I think that's the problem with finales. I feel like the better a show, the harder it is to pull off the finale. But at the end of the day, they didn't do anything wrong. It was fine. We got a amazing action sequence. It's rare to see two flying characters in a good fight scene, I feel. I like the assembled doco they did after it. Didn't feel too up themselves, which I think a lot of Disney promo stuff can feel. And I think it was fine overall. What did you think? Were you disappointed? I feel like a lot of people were.
Everything that you mentioned as pros just now are so surface level kind of things.
It is, yeah.
We have two flying characters. Yay. Come on, dude.
I think it's because finales, they have to wrap up things, right? So this is my point. This is my point.
We were given 8 episodes. This is the 9th episode. We were given 8 episodes of so much to chew on, right? I mean, we were given actual depth to these characters, and it's not like that the finale was completely devoid of that. My favorite scene in the entire episode is her saying goodbye to him, right? I mean, they switch the lights off and put the kids to bed. All of that kind of I'm doing a rewatch of the MCU right now, by the way. I'm kind of I'm up to Doctor Strange now, and it kind of dawned on me this particular rewatch through that the action sequences are not the draw for me anymore.
Yeah.
They're fun to experience in a cinema, in a crowd with someone, with people, or to experience for the first time. But what I stay for are the moments with Wanda and Wanda and Vision cooking. Is that paprikash? That's not paprikash. There's just something about that. We could order a pizza. There's just something about their dynamic, right? I mean, there's this synthetic human who is not a human, and there's this person who doesn't know her place in the world, and both of them don't know their place in the world because they were both kind of manufactured to be things that they're not, that they don't want to be. And I think there's a lot of this show kind of really it felt like it really wanted to explore that and delve into it. And while it did to a certain extent, it just ended up being a big punch up, fighty kind of situation that it didn't stay true to what the show was in the original, in the earlier episodes, right? It kind of it felt like it had to cop out a bit. It felt like, okay, we know what our fans want. Let's not try and alienate what our fans want, and let's try and get kind of a best of both worlds. But you end up diluting both of those worlds. You end up diluting the action segment and then you end up diluting the kind of like more philosophical segment.
I think you raised a really good point there when you said you think they trick you into thinking you're there for the fights, but you're really not. And I'm sure Joss Whedon will get ragged on later, but something you have to credit him is something he clearly knew. Maybe it was Kevin Feige, but I assume it's always been Joss. With the first Avengers is like what makes those characters work together is the dynamics. Like I remember watching, seeing the characters have conflict when you wouldn't expect it. That's some of like the best character moments. Like I remember watching even Infinity War for the first time, and I'm like, of course Tony Stark doesn't get along with Doctor Strange. They're both egotistical, like control freaks. Of course they're not going to get along. You wouldn't think of that. So it's those character moments that have really made the MCU what it is, not the action sequences. And you're right. I think where this maybe fails fan expectations without us even knowing it's failing them sometimes is they gave a lot of meat to chew on, but it ultimately ends up in a simple resolution. So yeah, Wonder
or an unresolved resolution, right? I mean, like I know that's an oxymoron, but I mean, like the thing with Vision facing down Vision, that is unresolved. I mean, like what are we supposed to take away from that?
I think here's something I've noticed with Marvel, and this doesn't just apply to the show, but inquires to the series as well. Is I think the problem Marvel always faces is fans go crazy with the fan theories, and it makes us expect things maybe we shouldn't expect sometimes, and they give us too many options when really they're trying to tell a simple story. So like with Vision, I do think it is a missed opportunity. They should have killed him or something, but probably from the screenwriter's perspective in their little story room, they're probably like, oh yeah, we got them to have a conversation. We got them to agree on something. That's done. But really, when you're an audience sitting in this chair, it's like, you can't just let him live. That feels unresolved. So I think like maybe the writers in their room, they're not seeing the flaws we see because they're working towards a different goal than we are as audience members.
That's a good point.
If that makes sense.
That's a good point.
Like they probably had a whiteboard and they had a bullet point and they go, we need to achieve this. And then they've probably ticked it off and said, we did it. But meanwhile, we're here. It's like, but there's two of them, and maybe that's like Feige or someone down the hall saying, keep him around. We want him for a movie, but I kind of doubt it.
There's a lot of speculation there, but like, let's talk about like what we do know. And I think what we kind of do know is that social media was going wild with the speculation in this show, right? I mean, like this is, much to, I think I'm going to just take a guess here, the detriment of the finale.
I agree.
Right? I mean, like
I agree.
that all of the speculation really led to a kind of like mixed response, and I'm not, I think that Marvel knew that everyone was going to speculate, but just, like everyone's guessing like Mephisto's the bad guy. Yeah, Mephisto. And it's just like, I kind of like watched it. I don't love to speculate about that kind of stuff, but like I admitted earlier on this show that this series was making me want to speculate, right? Because, that's what it's kind of like designed to do. But
they were really good at doing that. They made you want to guess because the cliffhangers were so great. Like it was a masterclass of cliffhangers. Like it was so good.
But there was like, you can't set yourself up with direct misinformation. And to have one of your cast members out there being like, hey, we have a Luke Skywalker level fucking cameo in the final episode. You can't do that. You just can't. I'm sorry. You just absolutely can't. And then you have... She said that. Like Elizabeth Olsen said that. And then
I thought it was Paul. Oh.
No, listen. Paul Bettany goes, oh, yeah, there is a character that there's an actor that I've always wanted to work with in my career. And I'm going to get a chance to work with him later on in the series. And he's obviously telling a joke. He's talking about himself. So... like
that's
can't,
a big fuck up. Yeah.
You can't stoke the fires like that, And then you have Matt Shackman the night before the episode drops, right? So the night before, he releases a statement being like, "Hey," or he actually answered a question to a journalist, being like, "Look, I don't know why Paul said that. I think he kind of like set us up to fail. But like, I just want everyone to temper their expectations that it might not be what you're expecting." And like for the director of all 9 episodes to get up and say that the night before the premiere of the finale drops is pretty wild.
Yeah, it gives me Josh Trank flashbacks a little bit. I think though, what probably didn't help is the Chris Evans ness of it all, because having him in the show, like obviously fan theory is going to go crossover with X-Men, crossover with Fox.
Chris Evans?
Chris Evan Peters. Wrong Evans.
I was like, wait, Captain America was in it?
Yeah, man, you gotta it's only for a second. It's a split cameo. Nah. But I think it makes good for headlines. So the marketing department's probably cheering. The publicity department's probably cheering. But the fans are all gonna be, obviously they're gonna assume the craziest things. But at the end of the day, Marvel are never gonna want to cross over with those movies, I think. Same reason why they don't want Spider-Man crossing over with Venom. Because they have such protection of everything, which is still I don't want to get too far into it, but these Spider-Man rumors, which seems so legitimate now, I'm trying to temper my expectations for that too, because Marvel are very protective of their properties. So when they end up being a boner joke, of course people are going to get let down. I don't know who's really the proper to blame, if we should be look, you guys set us up to fail.
I don't think we should be getting our pitchforks and being hey,
yeah.
you. No,
not that. But on one hand, it's an interesting issue because on one hand, they have this amazing opportunity that'll create great fan service. But on the other hand, they're sort of doing it with one hand tied behind their back because there's only so much they can do with that. Also, sorry, just to go back to what you were saying before, which adds to this as well, is when it comes to things like Mephisto and stuff, I reckon by it came to the third or fourth last episode, I was like, no, the big bad has got to be the witch.
Agatha.
Because to reveal someone out of nowhere in the last episode would be terrible from a storytelling perspective. It's got to be, it wouldn't be a twist if it would be Deus Ex Machina to have some random guy pop up. So,
and it does such it does such a huge disservice to Catherine Hahn's amazing performance.
Performance.
Everyone is focused on hold on, there needs to be another. There's probably going to be another big bad. While they're missing this really fucking awesome and deep and hilarious performance by Catherine Hahn, who I can't wait to see more of her. If she shows up in Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, I absolutely can't wait. But
that would be cool.
Yeah, I think we kind of hit the nail on the head here. This is kind of it's a weird situation. And, I think it bears, it should be mentioned as well that this wasn't supposed to be the first Marvel TV show to kick off the whole kind of Disney Plus streaming service, right? I mean, it was supposed to be Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which, we'll get to on the next topic because...
Great segue opportunity, by the way.
Yeah, I'm about to do it now.
Yeah.
So Falcon and the Winter Soldier. All right, we're leaving WandaVision behind. We can say that WandaVision is a great TV show or a great series of episodes.
Possibly
somewhat
one of my favorite shows in recent years, I would say.
Yeah, I agree. In terms of how patient it was and how well executed the reveals were, I think it was fantastic. I just think the finale, and you know what? Here's another thing. It's possible that when we watch this show, if we come back to it in a couple years' time, without the hype, without all of the social media behind it, without the conversation behind it, we will probably sit down and appreciate it a lot more. Because when you revisit something after it's been released, right? I mean, if we. Let's say, for example, recency bias is a thing. That's what I'm saying. So if you watch something recently, and you'll often be biased because of external factors, right?
Remember this point when it comes to Snyder cut. Okay, that's all I'm going to say.
I will. That's a whole other point. Yeah. But look, I've already made my segue. Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Do you love how I'm just segue, bitch?
Yeah. No, it's good. It's good. Look. Falcon and Winter Soldier, like you said, was meant to be the first show.
Oh, before we do get into it, I just want to mention for the listeners, usually we break these episodes up because there's been 2 episodes that's premiered at the time of this recording. We're just going to talk about it in one go. So Falcon and the Winter Soldier, episode 1, New World Order, episode 2, The Star-Spangled Man. Talk to me.
I think overall, I can see why this was meant to be the first show. it's like they literally just saw the Winter Soldier and said, copy paste. We want that as broken series.
It's very much a bridge, right?
It is. It feels like a bit of a bridge. Like it's obviously it's got some different characters and some different themes, which is great, but the influence is very strong. I think weirdly enough, I think having WandaVision as the first show is actually better because it was so innovative, but it was also like that show was super risky. Like that show could have backfired. But I think it was one of the most innovative, most interesting forms of storytelling I've seen in television in a while. Like the mixing of genres is amazing, which is kind of weird because then you take us to this, which is everything I thought I wanted. And then I get it. And again, I'm a little disappointed, but I have no reason to be because I've never said it'll be anything otherwise. I think I wanted to see Marvel on the TV screen and I'm getting it. And it's fine. It's not bad. It's good, but I don't know what more I could want out of this show. I think the second episode, it picked up a bit more in both terms of action and characters. I think this new Captain America is an interesting plot line. I'm getting massive flashbacks to Punisher season 1 or season 2 with that guy who was a military guy and then he became a terrorist or something. You know, I'm getting major flashbacks of that character. I forget who he was. I think it was season 2.
You're describing every
Marvel
street
villain,
level comic book character ever.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just like I can see how.
That's season 3. Yeah, the guy who had PTSD and stuff.
Yeah, you know the one I'm talking about.
Might be season 2.
Yeah, no, there is no season 3 of Punisher. There's only 2.
Sorry, yes, season 2. I'm thinking about Daredevil. Yeah, season 2.
But anyways, regardless, like I'm getting flashbacks to that. I'm not 100% sure where it's going to go with this guy. I think it's more likely he's going to turn to be a villain. Feel free to prove me wrong. US Agent John, whatever the fuck he is.
Right. Okay, cool.
I do find it interesting. I do think though, the buddy cop element that they've been pushing in the marketing feels really forced. Like, I kind of don't believe the comedic dislike of these two characters. I know they hinted at it in the movies, but like in the second episode where they get forced to like do therapy together in the police station, it comes out of nowhere for me and it kind of, messes the flow a little bit. But I love these action sequences. Like they are definitely on Marvel level. I like the little themes they're getting into, like the more reality stuff. Like I've always wondered, like, how do the Avengers get paid? I love that they've addressed that in a real human way. I like that these characters are becoming a little bit more 3-dimensional. The only other point I can think that's massive is, I don't mean to be so negative, but I feel like the structure of these episodes, they don't feel right. Like, for example, the first episode, all the action was front-loaded, and then the rest was mostly just talking, which is, I guess, okay. It's allowed to lead with drama as opposed to action. But
it's not a film, right? Like, it doesn't need to be a 3-act structure, right? Like, I mean, like TV episodes don't need to be 3-act structures.
They don't need to be, but I feel like the better ones are. Like, even a show like Breaking Bad, even though that doesn't feel formulaic, it does follow a 3-act structure for the most part. Like, I guess Better Call Saul kind of plays a bit loose sometimes, and I guess sometimes Breaking Bad. But generally, the big cliffhanger at the end feels like a climax. In both of these shows, the climax doesn't feel like a climax. I think the big thing is going from WandaVision, and I'm sorry I'm rambling here, but I think I'm realizing now my biggest comparison is to WandaVision. WandaVision, the cliffhangers felt massive. It made you want to run to the water cooler and talk about it with your friends and family. I don't get that from this. Like, the most interesting stuff seems to happen in the middle point of the episode. Am I alone on this, or am I crazy?
No, I don't think you're crazy. I think WandaVision was designed to be a show that was released week by week, whereas I think Falcon and the Winter Soldier could easily be dropped as a binge watch. Like, I think you could easily drop all 6 episodes and, not lose a beat. But
I agree. Yeah.
That doesn't really do anything for me. That's not really something I kind of like give it a knock for or anything like that. But I totally understand where you're coming from. I'm going to definitely agree with you that moment in episode 2 where the momentum is just kind of lost because they need to sit together in therapy and get over this shit. But I will say this: what comes out in that therapy session is fucking awesome. Like,
that's true. Yeah.
With Barnes being like, "Hey man, why the fuck did you give up the shield?" And like to him, it's like it's like, man, like Steve gave that to you. You were the one. You were the chosen one. And Sam doesn't want to take that on. I'm going to kind of like drop something on you. I think this show is shaping up to be on par with early WandaVision for me. I am finding a lot in this show that I'm kind of like latching onto. The action sequences are awesome. I'm going to say the first one, the one in the first episode was a lot better than the second one. That one,
yeah.
The first one was done practically for the most part. Like I was looking at a behind the scenes thing with the creator Carrie Scogland. And they were talking about like how they actually did like this wingsuit shit with the helicopters, and like you don't get Marvel shows, Marvel movies rather, doing things like that practically.
Oh, yeah,
it was like,
I think I saw some GoPro footage in there at one point.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when they're going through the mountains, there's absolutely GoPro footage and shit in there. And I love that they bring back Batroc the Leaper, like George St. Pierre.
I love that because he started off in Winter Soldier. Yeah,
I fucking knew this would happen. I knew as soon as I started talking, you're gonna fucking start thinking of things.
You're right. That's it. I just love it. I'm agreeing with you. Yeah,
it wouldn't be Midnight Double Feature if it wasn't. Don't worry.
Love you.
But like when we kind of like progress from that, and Sam's meeting up with his sister, and his sister's in dire straits because of the blip, right? I mean, it's all about consequence. It's all about Endgame's consequence, and suddenly all of these people have returned, and people are in poverty now, and Sam can't get a loan, and the only reason he's recognized is because he's an Avenger, and he knows that he has to play up the fact that he's an Avenger. Otherwise, he's a broke black man. Yeah. Applying for a loan.
Yeah.
And that's like the first episode really gives us a hint of that, and we don't get that hammered home until the second episode. That second episode, when we go and meet, is it Isaiah? Isaiah is the character, I believe.
I think it's Isaiah.
Yeah, I'm forgetting his surname, but he, basically the other Captain America, the Black Captain America, seeing Sam's reaction to that, to Sam, like to like Bucky. Hey man, you kept this a secret. You knew that there was a Black Captain America. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine what that could have done for us? Like, can you imagine what, like we could have had someone to look up to, and someone to strive to be.
It's ironic because he also could have been a Black Captain America, which I think is a nice layer to it.
Right. But I mean, like, yeah, no, fuck, I didn't even consider that. That's fucking awesome, right?
Yeah.
And then like straight after that, he gets hassled by police officers. And, once they recognize again that he's an Avenger, like, is that his identity kind of thing, right? I mean, like, what do you have other than the fact that you're famous for saving the world? Like, I love that. Like, that is awesome to me. Like the whole kind of like identity behind it.
It's funny. I always wanted this show to touch on race, like if the idea of him being a Black Captain America, like what does that mean? But I never expected them to do it in these ways that episode 2 did.
It's incredibly, awesome.
It's great. And in fact, I'd imagine Ryan Coogler is like watching, it's like, I thought of that already, or something. He's like these are definitely conversations that's happened in Ryan Coogler's head.
Well, that's it, right? Black Panther opened the door, right? I mean, Black Panther opened the door to have that conversation because that is such a mature conversation to have in a superhero film. And I don't want to dismiss Marvel as just being like a superhero franchise, but it absolutely is, right? I mean, it's supposed to be for children as well. But then, like, also add the other sort of element, and that's Bucky dealing with PTSD, and him committing the terrible and atrocious acts that he did as the Winter Soldier when he had no control, and him having to make amends, and befriending that poor old man whose son that he killed. Right? I mean, all of this is, I'm feeling the emotional weight that I totally was not expecting, because none of the trailers or the promotional footage really kind of like gave us a sense that, hey, Falcon and the Winter Soldier's gonna go into some heavy themes. Like, that was none of that was present in the trailers or the posters or promotional material. And, as a result, I remember, like, a lot of people before this premiered, people were talking about, like, hey, I'm not really that excited for the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And I'm just like, yeah, look, compared to WandaVision, it looks a bit more cookie cutter. But I think, I trust in Marvel, so maybe just wait. And I'm glad that I waited, kind of thing.
I guess with the more cookie cutter platform, for lack of a better word.
Put the cookie down! Sorry.
that allows you to build with more, with bigger themes. But you are right. The marketing advertising, they sold it like an action comedy. They sold it like it's Rush Hour, and this is...
Which it is. Well, it's more lethal weapon than Rush Hour, I think. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It is more of a...
But I feel like the comedy has taken a back seat, and I'm actually grateful for it, because a lot of the comedic moments, like, I'm not digging them the same way I dug them in WandaVision. Like, I don't know what it is. Like, I like Anthony Mackie. I will say that Winter Soldier, I miss his long hair. He doesn't feel like Winter Soldier to me anymore.
Well, he looks less threatening, right? I think it's by design.
Yeah, and it is. And it's like, I kind of miss it, but that's okay. Look, overall, I'm still stoked in the show. I'm not loving it the same way I liked WandaVision, but it is growing on me. I think episode 2 really planted some interesting seeds. I'm also, like, I'm just curious to see how Zemo's going to fit into this, because I'm getting the vibe, I don't know, like the way the last 2 episodes been, and like they seem like they're setting him up. They're trying to set him up like he's not a big deal, but in the commercials, like, we saw him with the mask, so we know something's gonna happen. We know something's gonna happen, and
right, something's gonna happen, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the only other thing I could say is, just as a kid, I had this X-Men comic I really, really loved, and there was a villain in it called Flag Smasher, who was cheesy as fuck, and I much prefer this take on Flag Smasher. So yeah, let's see what happens.
I like that it's kind of like an organization. Yeah, absolutely. The last thing that I kind of wanted to mention is Walker, right? I mean the Captain America, John Walker, rather, played by Wyatt Russell. Initially, I was like, what the fuck, right? I mean, like, at the end of the episode, you're just like, oh, okay, all right, that's a bit wild. But then, even without that second episode, you kind of like start thinking about it, and it's like, hold on, wait, there are still threads of Civil War that are still kind of like being woven into here, because John Walker is 100% a baby or a product of the Sokovia Accords. He is a government-controlled superhero, and that's exactly what Captain America was fearing against in Civil War. It's kind of like if we have to go somewhere and they won't let us, right? Like, that's kind of like what Captain America was standing up against. And I kind of like found that really interesting that they brought back that thread of government / state controlled superheroes. But John Walker, I'm really glad that they started episode 2 off the way they did, with kind of like giving us a bit of a background. I like that we kind of like get a bit more, a little bit more of hesitancy from him. Like, he is not super excited to take on this mantle. He is afraid to take on this mantle because they're huge shoes to fill. I love the fact that he is not superpowered, that he is not super serumed. He's basically got everything that Captain America does minus a super serum.
Which probably means...
that is really interesting to me.
Yeah, which I'm going to call it right now, which means he suffers a lot of pressure that he can't live up to, which means he's going to resort to getting superpowers some other way, which will make him turn bad, and that's the finale or second last episode. I'm calling that now.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
But that's okay. It's a formula that's happened before, and that's still good. I think what's important though is that they've really humanized him, grounded him, and made him a 3-dimensional character. They could have, if he was going to be a villain, maybe I'm wrong, but if they could have very easily written this character to be very basic, and they haven't. And I think that's what this show's doing well. Like, all the characters feel very well-rounded, except for maybe Battlestar, but we've barely seen him, so we'll see.
Yeah, and there's something about Wyatt Russell that's really somewhat likable / punchable. He walks the middle ground of, even in some scenes, almost looking like Steve, not in the helmet, just with the helmet off. Like, he's got the hair and like the kind of like the facial structure, but like, you can't help but just want to punch him, right? Like, if he wasn't holding that goddamn shield, you just want to fucking knock him out. Give him a fucking right hook.
I think it's by a very clever design, and I could not imagine what those conversations would have been like to get to that point. Before we wrap up, I just want to say one more thing I just remembered real quick. What I really liked, little small thing I liked, in the first action sequence of the first episode, the use of raising the stakes by racing to stopping this guy before he got to the border. Very unique. Haven't seen an action scene like that. Unique way of raising the stakes. Matt Vella, seal of approval, stamp. Very creative. Good job, writers.
Sicario, my man. You got to watch Sicario.
Still haven't seen it. Yeah.
No, I know. I totally understand what you mean, because that's real world stakes, right? I mean, like that's not Thanos about to snap his fingers and destroy half the universe. That's
not blue light in the sky. It's none of that. Yeah.
That's states about to go to war because of one guy crossing a border, right? I mean, it's good stuff.
Like as a aspiring screenwriter myself, I've had those times in front of the laptop late at night thinking of like, how do you keep raising the stakes of a scene without going to ridiculous lengths? And I think that's why it's hard. That's why you get so many generic blockbusters about aliens taking over the world. We got to go fight and save the world because they want to kill everybody. Like that's because it's easy to do. It's hard to write stuff like this that's that exciting. So shout outs. Yeah.
Totally. All right, let's move on. So we're well on board with Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I mean, like I don't think either of us, as much as we say we're disappointed or anything like that, we're not going to drop off the show because A, we're podcasting about it, and B, we're fucking Marvel nerds. So let's get into the competition. Let's get to a DC property. let's head to the Suicide Squad, and particularly James Gunn's version of the Suicide Squad, which dropped a trailer very recently. This is certainly interesting. A much different version of the Suicide Squad that we saw in 2016, but it aligned with DC's kind of like change of heart that they had in the middle of the production of that movie, right? I mean, like when we first saw the trailer at Comic-Con for David Ayer's the Suicide Squad, it was dark. It had all the the Batman vs Superman sort of aesthetic, and then like in the middle of that movie, DC apparently changed their mind and wanted to bump up the humor, and now we get James Gunn's hilarious the Suicide Squad.
I've always said it as they just wanted Suicide Squad to be as much like Guardians of the Galaxy as possible. So when they finally got the Guardians of the Galaxy director to jump on that franchise, I'm telling you, like a bunch of businessmen in business suits up in Warner Brothers, like they started dancing. They put Skrillex on, turned it up to 11, and they just got naked and started dancing around their little boardroom. Like that was someone got a raise for convincing James Gunn for getting on this project, because it is the best case scenario for this property, I think. What did you think of the trailer in general?
Yeah, it was fine.
I thought you'd be a lot more excited than that, but yeah, I agree. It was fine.
No. Look, I am excited. I'm very keen. I'll be there day one. I mean, because it's James Gunn and it's the Suicide Squad. And it's actors that I love, right? I mean, like Idris Elba, Margot Robbie, like David Bautista. Is David Bautista in this?
I think you're thinking of John Cena.
Yeah, sorry, John. I mean, like, look, they're both the same. I mean,
at this point,
both of them are invisible. By the way, think about it.
I had to think about that. Nice one.
Also, I mean, like Pete Davidson, and you revealed in the trailer as well, Sylvester Stallone, who was unconfirmed until he spoke in that trailer.
Yes,
which is pretty awesome.
Do we know? Was Taika Waititi in this trailer? Because I thought he was.
No, he was not. No,
so he's meant to be a surprise or something, I guess.
He's meant to be a surprise. I'm going to fucking wager a guess that he's somewhat related to Starro.
Probably,
I'm
going to
take
villain.
a guess.
Yeah, right. Look, if it's a big actor like that, it's going to be put into a major role, I'd imagine.
Well, yeah, yes and no. I mean, like IG-11, right? I mean, like wasn't a massive character in the Mandalorian kind of like thread as it was overall, but like Taika's amazing. There's something else I was going to fucking mention, and then you threw me off because you always like talking in the middle of me. I can't remember now.
Welcome to the show. It's going to be Margot Robbie reprising Harley Quinn after Birds of Prey.
Oh, I got it. Yes, obviously, yeah, Margot Robbie has this. She can do this in her sleep by now. But I was going to mention David Dastmalchian as the Polka Dot Man. I love David Dastmalchian. He was in The Dark Knight and Prisoners and shit like that, man. Like he's such an awesome character actor.
I get the feeling he's going to be really important to the plot, or
I get that too.
I feel like he's being put, or he's going to be like a real standout. I just feel like he's being put way more forward in the marketing than you think he would be. Like I expected John Cena to be front and center for this.
It's weird, right? I thought because considering that they're getting a Peacemaker kind of like spin-off TV show, that he was going to be kind of the lead, but it looks like it's going to be Idris Elba.
Yes and no, because I mean, sort of, but I feel like everybody's given pretty spaced out screen time in this trailer. I'm having a hard time.
Actually, I have a theory. Do you know? Here's why I think that everyone's kind of like sort of spaced out. Well, most of them. Like, there's like 5 or 6 that are kind of like sort of at the forefront. They're trying to avoid a Slipknot kind of like situation where we kind of like guess who's going to die.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, like, because that's the tagline, right? Don't get too attached. That's the tagline of the posters.
For those who don't remember, because it was a while ago, they tried to make it look like everyone was there, but Slipknot was featured way less in the trailers. In the movie, he was the only one to, I think, not get a little title card. And then he died almost straight away. It was pretty obvious. But on that note, I'm going to say it now. Pete Davidson is going to be in this for 5 minutes max. Like, he's going to die straight away. I'm calling that now. I don't know about anyone else. I think King Shark will make it through. I think Harley Quinn will make it through, and Peacemaker as well. Everyone else is up for grabs. Like, I don't think they're going to kill Idris Elba, but we'll see.
I can see James Gunn doing something entirely unexpected and just killing like Idris Elba right off the bat or some shit. Like,
I also don't think Michael Rooker is going to make it.
Yeah, well, dude, I love Michael Rooker. He looks so awesome in the trailer, man. Like,
I hate his fucking wig. I'm sorry. I really don't. I think it's meant to purposely look tacky, which is why I'm not going to like throw him into the fire. But that's the thing. I guess the costume design for this movie is all over the place, but I think intentionally. It feels like everything's from the Lost and Found. It's got a very weird visual style when you think about it.
It does. It's very off kilter and it's very disarming. But I think obviously I think it's by design. A, because James Gunn's a bit of like a kooky sort of like director, and B, because I think that's what kind of like WB is going for. And like, dude, something I kind of wanted to mention as well. The poster design is fucking amazing, and it was designed in the style of the Dirty Dozen. So if you Google the Dirty Dozen's poster, pretty much exact.
I know that was a big reference for James Gunn, which I think would not be anyone's first pick as a reference for a film like this, but that's what kind of makes directors like him, I think, so good, is that they take their influences from places you wouldn't expect. And that's what I think that's the best superhero movies, is when they don't try and make a superhero movie. They try and make a movie that just happens to have superheroes. Like, they're often the best ones, and I think that's what's going to happen here. I can't think of the last James Gunn movie I saw that wasn't Guardians of the Galaxy. Maybe it was
Slither, dude.
But Slither's
and
like
Super. You got to watch Super.
I haven't seen Super, but Slither was like 10 years plus old. Like,
oh, dude, no, it's 2006. It's like 15 years old.
Yeah, that's like ages. So it's kind of like, I feel like even though he's been around for a long time, he kind of feels like a new, fresh director still. So to see him take on a whole new franchise, I'm really excited to see what the hell happens. And like, he's not at a point yet where I can pick a James Gunn movie out from anything, because Slither doesn't look like Guardians of the Galaxy. Like maybe there are little traits here and there. Like, he does have a weirdness to him, but I haven't nailed it down yet. So I'm very interested in seeing him taking on. Visually,
they don't look alike, but if you watch Slither, if you watch Super, the sense of humor, the way the characters talk to each other it's very Guardians of the Galaxy.
I think if I remember correctly, didn't he direct that video game Lollipop Chainsaw? Or he had some sort of creative input into it?
He might have. I don't know. I don't know about that.
I know Michael Rooker also played a voice in that, and that was like, this is a Xbox 360 game, but yeah, so I'm keen to see how that goes. Anyways, I think we spent a bit too much time on this. Sorry, let's keep
Yeah,
moving.
look,
I think unless you got anything else
I think
to say.
we're both keen. It's safe to say we're both keen, right? I mean, like there's nothing really else to kind of like hit on it. Yes, I can confirm James Gunn wrote Lollipop Chainsaw. So there you go. Well done.
There we go. Yeah. I that does have a similar weirdness to Guardians of the Galaxy, to be honest. So yeah.
Cool. Let's get to another movie. We're moving out of the superhero genre, but don't worry, we'll be back eventually. Wrath of Man, right? Directed by Guy Ritchie, starring Jason Statham. This feels like a Equalizer. So Antoine Fuqua's Equalizer / John Wick / Nobody hybrid. Directed by Guy Ritchie. I what do you think about this? I saw this trailer today. I think the trailer came out today, but
Yeah.
I mean, like Colin commented on the video, and he was just like, meh, and I'm just like, I think, I agree.
Like Guy Ritchie's the director, correct? Is that right?
Yes, correct. Yep.
Yeah, he's a director I kind of don't get. Like all I know is that I can find as a similar thread for those movies that they're all English, and I think he likes using narration sometimes, but that's kind of it. Like I haven't seen enough of his work to have a full grasp on him. And the reason I know this is because when the poster was posted in the after party, I'm like, oh, well, Jason Statham and Guy Ritchie, that seems like a good mix. Have they ever worked together before? And then you listed like 5 movies. I'm like, oh, okay, clearly I don't watch enough of his stuff.
Jason Statham was in his first movie, and I think vice versa as well. I think Jason Statham's first movie was Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels.
So it sounds like these guys are used to working together. Look, I don't know if I wouldn't say I'm a diehard Guy Ritchie fan, but he's got a few films I like. Like, I think The Gentleman wasn't for me, but I still acknowledge it's a very good movie. But this looks way more up my alley because it looks like a very typical Jason Statham film. And I do like Jason Statham when he's playing Jason Statham. But it's not something I'm going to rush out to see. It looks fine. It kind of feels a bit B plotty. But that's okay. It's all right. What do you think?
It kind of bored me a little bit. I mean, like, look, I think, especially after The Gentleman, I think The Gentleman was a fucking knockout. Like it didn't make my top 10 or anything last year, but it's way up there. Like, it was fucking solid. So here I was thinking that Guy Ritchie's back, and it might be the fact that this is not the most exciting trailer, and he might be back. But after movies like Aladdin and King Arthur, Legend of the Sword, and it's just like Guy Ritchie. He lives in these kind of like lower budget sort of like crime action British sort of like film underworld, movies, right? Like that's his kind of like niche. By the way, Man from U.N.C.L.E. is a movie that you got to check out. That's Guy Ritchie as well. Yeah,
that one I kind of put off because I assumed it'd be crap. I know you've spoken pretty highly of that before. I think you're right. Like I think what it was is the Gentleman did have a bit of ambition to it. It did have a bit of scale to it in terms of even the way it was put together. What?
His 2 movies that I always forget that he directed, the 2 Sherlock Holmes movies with Robert Downey.
I actually saw that earlier, and that's when I was like, English, and I think there was narration in that. I feel like that might be a thing of his.
Yeah.
Those movies were pretty big. Even visually, like the ambition with that visually was pretty big. I feel like he's a bit all over the shop. And I'm not saying that as a knock at him. It's just like he just does whatever the fuck he wants. Like one day maybe he wants to do a big film like Aladdin. Next thing he wants to do this, which might end up in the bargain bin. And that's not a bad thing. Like, it's probably
pretty established.
Yeah, it's probably good for him creatively to have a palate cleanser.
And financially.
And, and also, like it might be able to prove you can do different things. So, good for him. I do think there is a audience out there for this, but it's a bit more niche than, I don't know, fucking Sherlock Holmes or Aladdin. Yeah.
Cool. Let's move on. Let's move on to our reviews for the episode. So we have quite a few reviews. We've been very busy. And it's interesting because, we both haven't seen all of these, right? Like there's a couple of these that only, one of us have seen. So let's get to one that both of us have seen. And it's one that I think Rick Gentuza is going to be very happy about because it's right up here, right up front. So he doesn't have to skip through all of our other reviews. let's get to Godzilla versus Kong.
Ooh.
Matt, give me a sec. I'm just going to turn the light on because if you haven't noticed,
yeah, you're invisible. Well, hey,
dark.
while you do that, can we take a?
Did you say I'm invisible? I'm leaving that in the episode.
These are dangerous times. Godzilla's out there and he's hurting people, and we don't know why.
There's something provoking him that we're not seeing here.
I'm of the same opinion.
The myths are real. There was a war. And they're the last ones standing.
I keep reaching for greatness because I'm built.
Godzilla vs. Kong. Now, this is a movie that has been delayed. Actually, has it been delayed? I can't remember because of COVID. But basically, we've been building up to this monsterverse since 2014's Godzilla introduced Monarch, right? And then we got Kong Skull Island, and then we get Godzilla King of the Monsters. And now here we are with Adam Wingard's Godzilla vs. Kong. One thing that's really interesting, before we do get into our thoughts on the actual movie, and I think I mentioned this in kind of like because I've been doing like Letterboxd kind of like reviews, right? Just to kind of like get my thoughts out on sort of like paper or digital, whatever, in words.
Which, by the way, thank you, because it means it's a lot less work for me updating the website written review section. So I'm very grateful for that. Dude. Thank you.
All good. But essentially, what I kind of want to do, just kind of like talk about very briefly before we get into our thoughts, the choice of directors that they get for these movies. Because the first movie you had Gareth Edwards, right? And he directed a small movie called Monsters, before he came out with Godzilla. And then he subsequently went on to direct Rogue One. But the other three are interesting because Godzilla vs. Kong was directed by a guy named Jordan Vogt Roberts. And I'm not familiar with his previous works, but he is now directing Metal Gear Solid, that movie. And then the other director, these last two directors are the ones that I kind of wanted to talk about. Michael Daughtry, who directed Trick or Treat. So it's a small horror film. He's kind of like got a horror background. And I'm kind of like, again, wondering why he was the choice for Godzilla. And then Adam Wingard is also a horror director. Adam Wingard's a bit more established than Michael Daughtry, but
yeah.
Adam Wingard directed You're Next. He directed the Blair Witch kind of like remake, reboot that came out recently. He directed Death Note for Netflix. So, I'm kind of like wondering what is Legendary's kind of like, or Warner Brothers is kind of like, thinking behind these directors directing these big movies, because it's just strange.
Yeah,
and not very predictable, which I like. I like the not being predictable element.
Before we get into who did Skull Island, that was
Jordan Vogt Roberts.
Right, and he's doing the Metal Gear Solid, because that was my favorite of the bunch.
That was my favorite of the bunch.
The Godzilla ones I've been mixed on. I think though the problem is Legendary. I think the Godzilla series has an identity crisis because they don't really know what to do with. Like the first one, I think they clearly tried to go horror. Right, they wanted it to be a horror movie, and I think they reached that to some success of making it horror. And the second one, they went slightly more of an action route. And this one, it feels like they've tried to drop most of the horror elements altogether, which in my opinion is for the best, because these are dumb monsters fighting each other. I don't think, if it's Godzilla by himself, I could see how you can make that scary, but anything else, you go into like kooky sci-fi territory. So I think maybe they want to have an element of horror in there, but they don't want to commit to it. But
there was a lot of sci-fi in this one. Like there was more science fiction in this than there was in the previous films. That
caught me off guard. In fact, Kate's not a fan of sci-fi, so like when they started getting to like flying spaceships and shit, I was not spaceships, but whatever, transportation. I looked over her and I'm just like, I'm sorry, I hope you don't get bored. She's like, no, it's right, I like it. I'm like,
but science fiction encapsulates a lot, right? Like science fiction is a big, big genre. Like, I mean, it can go from anything to space travel to aliens to artificial intelligence. Which is why I'm careful with what I show her. Like, if you see space in it,
she switches off most of the time. So
Oh, really?
you gotta be careful.
Damn.
Yeah, like she hates Star Wars with a
I think you
major
mentioned
passion.
this on the podcast.
But yeah, no, like but she rather enjoyed it, which is good. And she'd only seen Skull Island, and she liked that apparently. So that's cool. But anyways,
Okay.
let's get. You are right. It is a bizarre choice of directors, but I think it's a tricky. It's
It's not
tricky
obvious.
set of films.
That's my kind of like, not sticking point, but like interest. Like I'm just like, okay, that's a unique choice to direct a monster film, because let's rewind back to 1998. Roland Emmerich, who'd just come off Independence Day, this giant film with aliens and destruction and cities being destroyed, is a perfect, well, on paper, a perfect choice for Godzilla, right?
If it's a Godzilla story where it's Godzilla by himself causing destruction,
Yeah.
and on a big scale,
That's what it
then
was.
yes. And so
Yeah.
that for good pick. But I think Godzilla is an interesting franchise because it can dive into multiple different genres and territories. For example, like this one, this is like this goes more Avengers territory, lots of big explosions, lots of crazy stuff. While Godzilla 2014 or whatever it was, that was, slow paced,
Restrained.
methodical,
Yeah.
restrained. Like, I think they're still learning what Godzilla, what they want the franchise to be. And that means they have to change directors with that. It's just also interesting to see that there's a similar visual style throughout, regardless of the change of directors as well. Like, it doesn't feel like we're not getting Star Wars where it's like constantly changing.
It feels like there should be like a Kevin Feige kind of like behind it, like steering the ship, because it feels visually. Yeah, I think outside of the first Godzilla, these last three feel visually kind of like similar.
They do, and what I'm saying is I'm surprised at how coherent it seems, because it feels like on paper it shouldn't. So that's a weird achievement I think they've accomplished. But let's get into the film, man. What do you think of this one?
I want to get your thoughts first. I think because you know my thoughts. That's why.
You know what? All my issues. So okay. For the record, I really like Skull Island. I thought the other two Godzilla films were okay. And I've been pretty vocal about my criticisms, but I think most of them have been addressed here, which is what surprised me the most. So a lot of my issues with the previous two were visually, they're very dark with a lot of smoke and dust and lots of close-ups. It's hard to see what's going on. This one, they either fought in daylight or in well-lit areas. So and they had a lot of wide angles. So I think from a directing standpoint, the action scenes were so much easier to follow and therefore more entertaining. So from a directing standpoint, I think this is a step in the right direction. And I also feel I figured out what I don't like about the other two Godzilla movies that I like about Kong here. That's the human characters have always felt like they're just twiddling their thumbs and just commentating on what's going on. They're like, if it's Dragon Ball Z and like Goku's fighting Cell, the human characters are like Krillin and Yamcha on the sideline just going, oh, look, you did a Kamehameha wave, and that's it. What this film and Kong does, which I liked, is that they were like on a journey while the monsters sort of just intertwined into that plot in a way. So the human characters felt like they actually had something to contribute for once. Now, I'm not saying they're good characters. I'm not saying that they are three-dimensional or anything. I'm just saying that I didn't feel like I was wasting my time watching them. And I also think it was good that they sort of cast a few younger actors. Like now we got the kid from Deadpool 2. Like I thought putting him with Millie Bobby Brown.
Julian Dennison.
Yeah, I think putting them together was a good move because I feel like these movies should be more for kids. They should be going for a younger audience. And I feel like they found the right balance. Like, it's not as big jump like it was from Pacific Rim to Pacific Rim Uprising. Like that felt like a whole new franchise. This was like a nice in between. And I think they gave me what I wanted, which was a nice mix of the tone of King of the Monsters and Skull Island. It was lighter in tone. It was faster paced. And that all worked. I think though, if I was to, and the CGI as always has been great with all these films, I think. Look, but for me to enjoy the film, I had to switch off my brain. Like there's a lot of typical Hollywood pseudoscience, which is I'm getting the age now, it's starting to annoy me. Like, I'd rather you don't explain the weird shit going on, because when you try to explain it, like, you look dumber. Like, I don't want to know about the fucking gamma radiation of the hypothesis of the whatever the fuck. Just say they're a big monster, let them punch each other. I don't believe
the gamma radiation of the hypothesis.
Whatever, you know.
So
they can say whatever the fuck they want, man. Like, it may as well be speaking Greek. It's just all dumb. Also, I don't believe that Kong could stand on one of those battleships and it didn't sink. But, like, again, like with these movies, you really have to switch off your brain and throw all logic out the window, because every time they went to some sci-fi shit, it was pretty unbelievable. But, you know, they didn't go past the suspension of disbelief so much that it ruined the movie for me. I think overall, I enjoyed the film. I liked it way more than the other two Godzilla films. I think Skull Island is better. It was very predictable though. Like, I called Mechagodzilla as a villain before they even dropped the trailer. Like, I think we all knew they wouldn't have a proper winner. Like, they wouldn't, you know, they're not going to end a franchise. But they put it together well. Like, you know, sure, they had a cheesy little Martha moment where they nodded approval to each other.
I'm going to fucking get to that, dude.
Yeah. But I think there's no other way to make a film like this. Like, you have to go in expecting that is going to happen, because these movies solely exist as marketing purposes and shit. So I enjoyed the movie, but to enjoy the movie, I had to turn off my brain. But yeah, if they continue with the Monsterverse, I don't know what they're going to do now, but I hope they go this direction where they don't take themselves too seriously. I hope they just, you know, focus on the crazy bullshit. That's the only way I think you can make them fight each other and not seem stupid. It's by embracing the nerdy sci-fi comic booky aspects on it. Like, don't try and be prestigious and go up yourself with it, because you're just going to look dumb. But yeah, that's how I feel. But I know you didn't like the movie as much as I did, so lay it on me.
Yeah, I didn't love this movie. Where do I begin? Okay, look. First and foremost, I was bored. I found myself bored in the movie, and you know, if it's a movie called Godzilla versus Kong, that's a problem, right? I mean, there are, you know, okay. Look, I think you go in expecting that the human characters are going to be shit, but you need human characters, right?
That's true.
Like,
yes.
You need them to be there. They need to be the glue. There needs to be some kind of propulsion to get these two characters together. But you know, this set of human characters was the worst set of human characters in all of these movies, I think, in my opinion. I think it's kind of like compounded by the fact that they're played by such great actors, right? Like Brian Tyree Henry, Rebecca Hall, Damien Bashir is like he's fucking in Hateful Eight. He's in The Artist. He's fucking Oscar winner, God's sake. He's the kind of like, you know, megalomaniac rich guy who's building Mechagodzilla kind of thing. So, you know, like when you're kind of like wasting actors like this, especially Rebecca Hall, like, you know, dude, I kind of like die a little bit inside, and it's just, you know, I don't want a Oscar worthy performance. I want something. I want something a bit more other than reacting to the arrival of Godzilla, or, you know, like things like this, things like, you know, it just ended up being boring. Like, I just, you know, and then, but those characters are given, Rebecca Hall's character is given a bit more agency than Millie Bobby Brown's character and Julian Dennison's character and Brian Tyree Henry's character. Because, like, that was a weird kind of like, you know, like, let's break into this facility. Oh, we've just traveled halfway across the world underground to Hong Kong. Oh shit, they're booting up Mechagodzilla and we're right under it. And so, like, you know, I just, okay, all right, fine. And, you know, like, it also was a strange decision to include Julian Dennison's character paired up with Brian Tyree Henry's character, who are both kind of like the comedic relief. So I was just like, why do we have two sort of like funny-ish characters right next to each other sort of thing? You kind of like end up canceling each other out. So I'm just like, all right, cool. But again,
I would go a step further to say, am I the only one who thought it was weird that this like older guy who's hanging out with these two kids for the whole movie that they kind of introduced as complete strangers. Like, maybe I'm just getting old, but like alarms started going off in my head. And I know it's like, if I saw that in real life, I'd stop and like, I'd start asking some questions. Like, this doesn't seem like an appropriate like thing.
Oh no, I'm breaking out the fucking sex pest watch list, dude. Like, you know, like, hey, what the fuck? But no, like, you know, but that's expected, right? It's expected that you're going to go in not being interested in the human characters. But the Godzilla versus Kong of it all, and while, you know, dude, the spectacle is amazing, right? I mean, like, you know, that's something everyone can agree on.
Yeah.
You know, the arrival of Godzilla in the middle of the ocean is fucking awesome. You know, that whole brawl between them in the ocean is awesome. And then, you know, the whole fight sequence in Hong Kong is Man of Steel kind of like level destruction. Like, you know, but at the same time, that second brawl got really boring to me. Like, you know, I'm just like, we're kind of like punching each other, we're rolling around, destroying buildings, like we're jumping off the buildings, and I don't know, it just seemed a little unimaginative to me. It seemed like, I think for me, it's I would, and this is gonna go against what I was kind of talking about.
It happens.
I would have liked the human characters to become a little bit more involved. You're telling me that these two titans are destroying like the infrastructure of Hong Kong, killing millions of people in the process, and the Chinese government or Hong Kong's government, they're separated, right? Like, that's the thing. Is that I can't remember, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Who, like, do they not have a defense? Like, do they not have an army, or like what are we doing here?
It's interesting you bring that up, because that is a problem they addressed in another fight because actually when they had Kong and Godzilla fight in the water, they had all the battleships attack Godzilla, and it gave Kong like a bit of advantage. That was interesting.
I found the humans were helping Kong out a lot, like a lot. They were. And
like, I guess Godzilla had a huge advantage because like Kong couldn't breathe under the water. I thought that scene was great for stakes, but maybe it's because they had that scene earlier that the second fight doesn't seem as exciting, because they've taken a lot away. Like, I think visually, that scene looks amazing with all those lights in Hong Kong.
It does. The neon looks awesome.
I need to fucking go to Hong Kong, man. That looks amazing. But you are right. Like, there are less contributing elements to the fight scene, which is funny considering it is like the climax. And
exactly.
Adding Mechagodzilla isn't enough. Yeah.
Right, exactly. I know, and I can't believe that sentence is about to come out of my mouth. Godzilla vs. Kong is not enough. You need something else in there to be a bit more interesting, and not Mechagodzilla. I'm sorry. Like, he wasn't that interesting to me. Like, it was just kind of like, I don't know, man. Like you said, it was just predictable. And it was like, you know, let's team up. Oh, dude. Okay, like, here's my thing, right? I am blaming this movie. You said, hey, you know, we know that these two are going to team up by the end. Sure, totally. I would totally be on that wavelength with you. I had that kind of like going into Batman vs Superman for sure. But it doesn't help, and this is, again, reminds me of WandaVision. Doesn't help that Adam Wingard was out and about saying that there is a definitive winner. And you can argue that there was. You can argue that Godzilla beat Kong because his heart technically stopped beating, right? But you can't have these two, you know, at the end of the movie, longingly stare at each other like they're about to go out to prom together, like on Homecoming or some shit. And then Godzilla just goes back into the ocean, literally like the final shot in Godzilla 2014, by the way. So, you know, it's just really like baffling to me, and it was really disappointing. And here's another thing, right? This reminded me very much of Rise of Skywalker in that it felt very safe.
Oh,
right? I mean,
100%. Yeah.
It felt like there was no, you know, you don't feel like anyone's in mortal danger, even though they're being crushed by every step of these guys like they take. Kill at least one of your characters. You know, like, just get rid of them, or because you have too many to begin with, right? That's another problem.
You talking about the humans now?
Yeah, there are way too many characters in this. Like, you know, just kill someone. Just, dude, like, fucking Kyle Chandler's in this movie. Like that's Millie Bobby Brown's father in this movie. Like he does nothing. He does nothing. The only reason he's in this is because he was in King of Monsters. They
kill that chick who's like the daughter of the Apex winner, don't they?
The daughter. Oh,
like very unceremoniously. Like it's they do it in a way that it adds nothing to the story.
It's Isa Gonzalez.
But that's not enough. Yeah. Like you're right though. That's not enough. Look, just the way that they did Kong as a definitive loser while building up Mechagodzilla. My head thought of that interview you talked about, and I'm like, oh, so that's the loophole. They found a loophole around it. They found a way to be safe, do the predictable thing, and still not make Adam a liar, which made me chuckle a little bit. But as you talk about the human characters, make me do realize
Adam was out talking about it after the fact, right? Like he wasn't talking about.
No, he was saying that like a week ago, wasn't he?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like he was saying it more recently. Like he wasn't saying it like while they were making the movie. Yeah.
Oh yeah. But I think you're right. That could have killed a character or maybe a couple characters off. But as you talked, though, it sort of hit me that I was more invested in the human characters, but that was more so the characters traveling to Hollow Earth. The ones who are there to meet Mechagodzilla and whatever, they exist solely for exposition dumps that are broken up with mild attempts at comedy. And they were fine, but it was still exposition dumps. I think it's an improvement of how they treated human characters in the other movies, but not massively. I think the Hollow Earth stuff worked, but the other stuff maybe not as much.
Do you?
I think it worked as in they found a way to use it to move the plot along and keep things interesting. Like they had a goal, they had a physical goal to reach, just like they had in Skull Island. They had a physical goal to reach. The other movies, they literally just stood around and did nothing for 2 hours. So that's why I feel like this is an improvement. Yeah.
Dude, I just hate the thing of like Damien Bashir's character, who's basically Tony Stark in this, right? Like he's got unlimited money.
I guess so, yeah.
He goes to Alexander Skarsgård's character, who lives by himself at a university or whatever, and he goes, "Hey, you're the doctor who wrote about Hollow Earth, right? This is your book." And Alexander Skarsgård goes, "Yeah, that's my book, and there's plenty of other copies that I have because it didn't sell well or whatever." And it turns out that he's right. Like, it's just the one fucking scientist dude like ends up being right. I don't know.
Look,
you know what? That's movie bullshit, but
it's not the first time I've seen that happen in a Hollywood. Again, it's a pseudoscience shit. It's all that bullshit that you've either got to learn to love or hate, I guess. But the fact that the way that they kept the plot moving with human characters this time around was a huge improvement in my opinion, over the two Godzilla films.
Yeah.
The reason I don't say Skull Island is because Skull Island did the same thing, but they did it while having more meat to chew on, while doing more interesting things, or being more involved with the monster.
Being homage to Apocalypse Now as well.
Yeah, obviously it was done with a lot more class. But I should say one more thing about the human characters you brought up earlier. I think a good way to put it the way you said it is, I think another reason why the human characters work for me is that the talent of these actors is stronger as an ensemble than they were in the previous films. But while they are great actors, they have very little meat to chew on. So I think that's why it's more watchable for me, because they are more charismatic actors. So while they're not saying any, and I think it's just pretty much an equal level of shit dialogue from the other films, but because the actors are just naturally, I gravitate to them more. I'm willing to put up with it more, maybe.
Yeah.
It's hard to say.
I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna leave it here before we move on to the next review. This movie, and I wrote this in the review, this is a prime example of you think you know what you want until you get it. The trailer comes out and it's like, fuck yeah. Like they're gonna fucking... Dude, okay, look, the shot of Kong punching Godzilla in the face is the best shot in the entire movie for me. Like that wide angle kind of
it's a great
one
shot.
punch kind of thing. But it outstays its welcome really early. Like, in the Hong Kong fight, I'm just like, man, this is going on forever. I'm exhausted. It's just the same shit, repetitive shit over and over again. Just break it up with something. Give me something more. They do some barrel rolls. Godzilla scratches him on the tummy, on the tum-tum. And, he ends up dying, right? And he ends up, being revived by a spaceship.
I think these kaiju movies, man, they're not particularly for me, but I think this was a step in the right direction. I just think especially Godzilla, Rick's going to kill me for this, but Godzilla is one of the most unrelatable protagonists ever. Like it's very rare to see an expression. He's not meant to be relatable
though. Like, yeah, right? But he's meant to be a metaphor.
I get bored looking at him. Like, that's why I think this movie was also an improvement of the other ones, is because Kong, he can express, he can communicate, he can interact with the humans. Godzilla has always been unable to do that. And I think the reason why I like Godzilla more in this film is because he has less screen time. Like, he only appears for a fight and then he disappears. Yeah. Like, he's only comes up for the big spectacle shit, which is all we need him for. With the other movies, you get like fucking 500 hours of him walking through buildings and it's like, and people running away from him. That's never going to affect me emotionally.
I just remembered a interview that I listened to with Adam Wingard actually this week. The reason why you can't emote with him is because Toho, who owns Godzilla, will not let Adam Wingard and other directors Godzilla emote. Like, that is literally the thing. They're like that. So
it's like a branding
the first question,
thing. Yeah, like
the first question off the rank. The first question off the rank in this interview was, "Is there, playing with these two giant characters? Did you have any constraints?" And his answer was, "Yeah, Toho gave me a note very early on. I can't let Godzilla emote." And like, he can be angry because that's the thing. Like, he's meant to be a force of nature. He's meant to be this kind of like example or metaphor for nuclear destruction, right? Yeah. Well, that's the thing. And, like it just ends up being like, okay, great. To me, dude, like the 2014 one found a way to do it well. And, you'll get complaints from people who are like, there was no Godzilla in that movie. But the way that we built up to Godzilla in that movie, I haven't felt that feeling with the subsequent films. Like, like when Godzilla finally rocks up in the airport or like, in the city at the end and he starts doing his atomic breath kind of shit, I never felt that way again about the subsequent movies.
There's a reason why every movie has a flashback to him shooting the beam down that monster's throat. It's because it's awesome for that first movie. That's because they reserved it until then. I think that first movie, it is really good, but it's the type of movie you can only make once. Like, if they were to repeat that, it'd be lame as shit. I think they've had trouble finding a way to escalate beyond that point, and having him fight Kong has been the best they could come up with. And
well, yeah, dude, like when he shoots the atomic breath for the millionth time in this movie, like you don't feel it.
Sorry, what was that? We had
Sorry, I think we might have a bit of a delay, but like when he shoots the atomic breath for the millionth time in the movie, you just don't feel it anymore. You don't feel the impact anymore. Like, it's just not. Yeah,
it would be cool. Yeah, it'd be cool if like Godzilla came up with a new move in the end or something. Like, that would be cool. Or if, I don't know, Kong shot laser out of his mouth or some shit. But I don't know. Look, at the end of the day, I think it's the right step for the franchise, but. These movies are made for a particular audience. But yeah, I think, Shall we move on?
Yeah, let's move on to our next review. Sorry about that, Rick. We hope you were able to sit through that. But let's move on to Judas and the Black Messiah.
Repeat after me. I am a revolutionary. I am a revolutionary.
You're looking at 18 months for the stolen car, 5 years for impersonating a federal officer, or you can go home.
The Black Panthers are forming a rainbow coalition of oppressed brothers and sisters of every color.
Their aim is to sow hatred and inspire terror.
I will learn all that I can.
These ain't no terrorists.
You can murder a liberator, but you can't murder liberation. You can murder a revolutionary, but you can't murder revolution. And you can murder a freedom fighter, but you can't murder freedom. Hey!
So, Judas the Black Messiah was my most anticipated film. Well, one of my most anticipated films of the year. Just based off the two amazing trailers, right? I mean, like, that first trailer was just a knockout, and then
Amazing
they released
trailers.
the second one, and it's just as good. Yeah, absolutely. But I think, this movie's being nominated for Best Picture, by the way. Like, I think that's important to mention. This is a 5-star film. And I don't do scores anymore. I only do them on Letterboxd because I think they kind of make you do them. But this is one hell of a movie. This tells the story of the Black Panther chairman, Fred Hampton, and the person who kind of played a role in his assassination, William O'Neill. Basically, O'Neill was arrested for a crime, and then he was kind of like, he became a criminal informant. He infiltrated the Hampton sort of like Black Panther organization in Chicago, and leaked information to the FBI, which kind of like led to Fred Hampton's sort of like downfall. But the whole thing is like, William O'Neill starts to become ingrained in Fred Hampton's sort of like ideals, and he starts to believe them too. And he should, because the ideals that Hampton's putting together and the philosophy behind them is unity, right? I mean, like, it's all about, let's bring together these people of color and work to make, Chicago, or, like the wider society, a livable place for us, right? I mean, like, this is a time in 1960s when minorities are, and they still are, by the way, but 1960s they were feeling it, and it's a heartbreaking story. This is Daniel Kaluuya and Lakeith Stanfield. Dude, there's a reason they're both nominated for Oscars. They are straight fucking fire in this movie. Especially Lakeith Stanfield. Daniel Kaluuya is amazing. I think he's going to win the Best Picture, the Best Actor Oscar. I'm just going to straight up call it. And it sucks that Lakeith Stanfield is nominated in the same category, because even when the nominations came out, Lakeith Stanfield was like, what the fuck? Like, why? I'm a supporting. Like, I'm not the lead, so what the fuck? Because I think that Lakeith could absolutely take it out. Like, he could take out the supporting actor category. So, yeah, man, this is a powerful film. It's got a powerful message. It's directed really well. The moments of violence, when they hit hard. And the moments of heart, when they hit hard. Yeah, you should absolutely drop what you're doing and check this out. It's a fantastic film.
All right, well, with that, I'm just going to leave now and go watch it, and bye.
See you later. But yeah, man, it's awesome. It's a good film. Were you planning on checking it out eventually?
I want to. I just don't know when, or I will be able to, but maybe I'll have to be around Oscar buzz time. But that has an amazing trailer. If anything, if there was an award for best trailer, I think it's one of the best trailers I've seen in a while. So.
Right, totally. Let's move on to something just as serious and just as emotional. Let's move on to Bad Trip.
I don't think we ever gonna get out of this town.
I'm telling you, seeing Maria today, that was a positive omen.
Maria!
Oh my God,
I haven't seen you in forever.
If you're ever in Manhattan, I'll show you around.
Great.
Okay. Yes.
I'll see you
great
later.
seeing you, Chris.
Yeah, man. So Bad Trip literally hit Netflix a few days ago. It's starring Eric Andre. It's got Lil Ray Howery, who you've seen in, I think it's Get Out.
Also
Get Out.
in Judas and the Black Messiah, by the way.
Right, yeah. And Tiffany Haddish as well. But Tiffany Haddish, like, she does not look like Tiffany Haddish. She has cornrows. She's like a escaped prisoner in this. I can't believe I'm going to say it. This might be, okay, I can believe I'm going to say this, because there's not a lot of them that I watch, but this is one of the best prank show movies I've seen that's led by a script. So that's a very specific genre, but they do a good job. Like, what I liked about this film, that this film does that I didn't like about Borat, subsequent movie film, is with that film, I feel like 30% of it or more was scripted, and story based, and I just wanted them to get more to like the reactionary based stuff. This film, almost every single scene, they find a way to entwine the plot into the pranks as well. Like, for example, the inciting scene is like this guy sees a girl, he falls in love with her, and she's like, and like as she walks off, like he's working at like a Dairy Queen or something, and he just like, oh my God, I'm so in love with her. He's like in a daze, and then he actually puts his hand in a blender and cuts his hand off, and all the customers freak out. That sort of shit. It's like, while they were able to do a plot scene, they still got reactions and pranks involved as well. And so as a result, the flow of the entire film, it's very consistent. And I feel like a lot of these scripted prank stuff, like even Bad Grandpa didn't do that as well. So shout outs for that. Besides that, it's what else is left to say? It's what you'd expect. It's a lot of shock humor, a lot of just people's reactions. What I liked is that they managed to get some pranks involved in, or maybe not pranks, but like there were scenarios where they set up bystanders to be active participants. So there's a scene where Tiffany Haddish is holding him over a building, is about to throw him off a building, and they literally just start passing a megaphone out to random people to try and convince her not to kill him. And there are scenes like that where like Lil Ray Howe and Eric are like fighting, and like a random stranger comes in, tries to break up the fight, and they sort of make this guy somehow like be the mediator between their fight. So I just think it was kind of, I think from a behind the scenes perspective, it must have been really, I think it's really clever how they put things together. They make this one guy basically become an accomplice to Tiffany Haddish breaking out of prison, where she convinces him to like lie to these police officers about her escaping, which I think was just genius. Yeah, so look, I think if you're into these type of films like Jackass and Bad Grandpa and whatever, this movie is for you. For everybody else, don't bother. It's not for you. But I had a good time. I actually got a few chuckles out of it. And it just made me remind, this is what I wanted Borat to do more. I wanted them to have more scenes where it was more get reactions out of people more. I feel like they had some great ones in Borat, but I just wanted more. But yeah, that's it. It's fine. If you're into this, you've probably already seen it.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, you know me. It's not for me. But I mean, like, you know,
if you're the type of person that laughs at those dumb social influencers doing pranks on people, this is like what it looks like when people who are smart and have a budget do it well.
Yeah. Fair enough. Let's move on to Boss Level.
I used to complain that every day felt the same, and now every day is the same. Hey, Jake. I have died 144 times, and every day ends like this. But it doesn't matter. Not when you've lost everything you've loved.
I really want to see this one, dude. I'm mad at myself for not seeing it. Did I miss out on much?
Yeah, you did. This was so fucking good. Like actually really good. I mean, like, it uses the, you know, this is a movie that uses the Groundhog Day kind of like trope whatever, to its maximum effect. It knows exactly what it is. And like, I will never get tired of this trope as long as filmmakers find a way to make it feel fresh and new. And that's totally what they do, right? I mean, like, same as like what Christopher Landon did with Happy Death Day, right? It feels fresh. It feels like you're watching, you know, something that's not tired, something that knows exactly what it is. This is directed by Joe Carnahan, who directed Smokin' Aces and The A-Team. He's a solid action director. You can see that in this movie. Like, the action in this movie is pretty fucking spot on. And this movie would 100% totally fail without Frank Grillo. Frank Grillo is knocking out of the park in this movie, dude. He is firing on all cylinders. Yeah. He's again, he knows exactly what movie he's in. He's awesome in the action sequences. He's awesome in comedy. His reactions to things they feel realistic, but also, you know, service the world that they're in as well. It's kind of like a heightened world. You know, like Mel Gibson's in this movie, Naomi Watts is in this movie. Like, all of this, these are kind of like tools that Joe Carnahan uses to maximum effect. because this is a tight movie. I think it's only an hour and 40 minutes, maybe even shorter than that. And once the movie knows it's done, you know, it cuts the credits, you're out, boom. And I appreciated that so much, dude. It's such a fun movie. It's full of action, it's full of humor, it's full of heart as well. And it kind of like sometimes it hits you in the gut when you're not expecting it. And I absolutely will be checking it out again. Probably not at the movies, probably going to wait for streaming. But you know, if you're kind of like on the edge of checking this out, I think you should absolutely go check it out.
I've got a quick question for you. I remember when the trailer came out, you and me both thought...
Why is it called Boss Level?
No, well, I guess it ties into that, but like, how's the tone? Because remember we were talking about how it seemed like a bit more serious and grounded, but the trailer was being really heightened and like...
It's not serious and grounded. It's not super serious and grounded. Again, because, and minor spoiler here, but Frank Grillo, when you come into the movie, he already knows that he's in a time loop, very much like Palm Springs. So, like, you know, this is day whatever. Like, you know, he's already, like, you don't see the origin of the time loop, is what I'm saying, right? Like,
would you say it's the movie, like, is it in the same vein of something like Scott Pilgrim or Guns Akimbo, or is it more just like an action film in a time loop?
I haven't seen Guns Akimbo, and it's not exactly Scott Pilgrim in that, you know, there are, you know, massive word like fonts, like you know, like there's no words on the fucking screen or anything like that.
Like, is it aesthetically video gamey? I think is what I'm going for.
Not really. I mean, there are things in there, but like here's the thing, right? And again, not a minor spoiler. Sorry, not a spoiler. Just something that happens. So there's a character that he kind of comes up against, and she's good with swords, right? She's very good with swords, and he just can't get through her. He can't get past her. And what he ends up doing is on one of his days, because it's a loop, right? So every time he gets killed, he gets reset. One of his days, he goes and learns katana. Like, he learns how to fucking sword fight, and he does it for days and days and days and over and over and over again. And then he's like, all right, I am now proficient enough to face this person. It feels like the structure of the movie feels like you played Pokemon, right?
Yeah.
It feels like
a grind.
No, but it feels like the Elite Four, and then Mel Gibson is Gary at the end.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like.
Cool.
But it's a fantastic film. I think you should check it out.
So, well, let's wrap things up and try not to spend too much time on it if we can, but I think we have to because it is time for Justice League.
Yeah, it is time for Justice League, and something that we're going to kind of like mention here. We're not going to pull the taffy, but we're also not going to try and save things, especially for it. But we are planning on doing a bonus episode for members of the Green Room. So if you are interested in checking out the Green Room, head to patreon.com/Midnight Double Feature. We'll be dropping most likely within the coming weeks a episode, hopefully with Colin and Danny, or Colin or Danny. If not, if the time doesn't align, then it'll just be Matt and I about Zack Snyder's Justice League. It'll be a bit more of a deep dive, but we won't be doing like a feature presentation because you can't with a 4-hour movie. If you do want our extended thoughts on what we're about to talk about, then head to patreon.com/Midnight Double Feature. All right, let's get into it. Zack Snyder's Justice League.
This world will fall. I need warriors. I'm building an alliance to defend ourselves.
How do you know your team's strong enough? If you can't bring down the charging bull, then don't wave the red cape at it.
You were sent here for a reason. And even if it takes you the rest of your life, find out what that reason is.
They said the age of heroes would never come again.
It will. It has to.
Zack Snyder's Justice League. a little movie, not very publicized. No one talked about it or anything. Just dropped right quietly. But no, I think how I kind of want to tackle this is let's do two things, right? So let's split it into two. Let's talk about the movie, and I know it's going to be impossible. Let's talk about the movie as a movie without the background shit, right? And then if we want to, we can dive into the background, the Zack Snyder, the social media, and all that shit.
Hard.
Yeah, but you know what? We're podcasters. We need a fucking challenge, dude. Because I watched this twice, right? I watched it firstly. Yeah, I watched it twice.
I watched Joss and then this. So I guess I watched it twice, nice. But I watched two different versions, I guess.
Well, okay, you watched 6 hours. I watched fucking 8 hours. Well, but no, you're talking to a guy who watched Endgame 5 times in the movies, right? That's 15 hours. So this is. But I mean, granted, the second time I watched it kind of like in the background sort of thing, because here's kind of, and I'm diving right into my thoughts. The score for this movie, Tom Holkenberg's score, Junkie XL, I fucking love it. I love it, dude. I listen to it on my walks and shit. I think it's I think it's miles ahead of Danny Elfman's score. I think Danny Elfman was just straight up the wrong choice for Justice League. His tone and his themes just really didn't fit with what was happening. But I get why they did it, right? I mean, again, I'm not going to go and talk about the background and shit, but I think Junkie XL score is fantastic. There are beats of Mad Max Fury Road in there that I really appreciated. And it feels a lot more, I guess, quote, epic. It really lines up with what you're seeing on screen. And I think the feeling that Zack's trying to kind of emote. Getting into my general thoughts of it, I loved it. And I think this is miles ahead of the other version. I think it tells this is a director I think that lives in director's cuts. If you watch the Batman vs Superman theatrical version, that version is far inferior to the ultimate cut, right? If you watch the 4-hour Watchmen ultimate cut, that version is miles ahead of the theatrical version. So I think Zack Snyder, he's all about excess, and I think he really thrives in excess. And that is not really a trait that is something that you want in a director. You don't want Michael Bay to be given 4 hours of, just explosiveness, right? I mean, it just becomes tiring. I don't want to see a 4-hour cut of Godzilla versus Kong. I just don't, because I got bored with an hour and 40 minutes, 45, whatever. But this felt like Zack is throwing everything at the wall, and not everything sticks. I'm not saying it's a perfect movie. I'm saying that there's definitely flaws in it. It's just I found it to be utterly engrossing. I found it to be really compelling. I found it to be, I found myself kind of kicking myself. Well, not kicking myself, kicking the pandemic for not allowing this to come out of the movies. I think, if I know you have thoughts, but anyway, I wanted this. I wanted to watch this on the big screen. To be able to see this in the IMAX, I think would have been awesome. I think if this had come out in 2017, there'd be a much different conversation happening behind the scenes right now. And, it is unfortunate what happened to Zack and personally, but I think that this is the far superior version. Flash is given so much more justice. Cyborg is given a lot more depth. Batman is kind of still a little, in my opinion, shortchanged a little bit. Wonder Woman is done, fantastic service. Aquaman is great, but you do kind of need to step back and remind yourself that this is before the film, the Aquaman standalone. So they're still talking in bubbles and shit. I think Superman's return is awesome. I think the kind of grace that they introduce him in, they introduce him with the score as they're talking about him, kind of around the table. It's just really, really well done, in my opinion. And I think yeah, I'm just going to kind of like end this with my favorite scene in the entire film, and kind of like in like, you know, comparing it, standing next to, because it felt like a Marvel moment, is Flash turning back time. I think, you know, they set that up really well with the mother box. You know, they kind of like introduced the fact that he can sort of reverse time if he goes fast or whatever. And then like his big moment at the end, that just totally took me by surprise, because I had no idea where I was going. Like, you know, like at that point, Superman's sort of arrived, and, you know, kind of like all bets are off. He's tripped. He's kind of like got like a wound. So you're just like, you know, and by the way, the mother box has blown up the entire fucking world. So you're like, what the fuck is about to happen? And then Barry runs and like he, you know, talks to his dad. And I just thought it was really beautiful. But yeah, I think this is a massive win for the Snyder movement. And, you know, it is a shame that Warner Brothers aren't going to move ahead with his sort of like vision. But they have, you know, it's kind of like too little too late, right? I mean, like Black Adam is well into production. They are well moving forward with their own universe. So, you know, all of these conversations have been happening online for the past week or so. So I'm not really going to add anything to it. I just really enjoyed this movie personally. It felt like the sort of like Watchmen of DC, in my opinion. And I loved Watchmen, by the way. Tell me why I'm wrong, Matt.
I feel like the entire world is taking crazy pills. I feel like we've put something's in the water and it's fucking with everybody. And a lot of things I have to say, I haven't seen anyone else say. So I don't know. And I know we don't want to talk about too much of the history, but I would like to remind everyone, because everyone seems to have forgotten this, but DC fans called Joss Whedon's cut a masterpiece back in the day. And they only took that back a few years ago when the Snyder Cut movement came back. Like, I remember they review bombed Marvel films as a result. They got mad at people who gave negative criticisms. And now all of a sudden, like, people are calling this one of the best movies ever made. And those people...
That's a stretch.
Like, that is a massive stretch. Like, this is not Citizen Kane. Not saying I think Citizen Kane's the best movie ever, but this movie is slightly better than Joss Whedon's version, in my opinion. And the reason I say that is, yes, if you broke it down scene by scene, everything is far superior. But this is overall, it is a very boring and painful watch. No movie should be 4 hours. And if we went back in time, this is nothing like what Zack would have put out. Because Zack, I know he loved his long movies, but he would not have put out a 4-hour movie. There would have been cuts. And what drives me insane...
They wouldn't have let him.
They wouldn't have let him. Like, it would have been like Batman v Superman. This would be the ultimate cut, you know? And what's really baffling to me, the most of all, is this movie could have easily been cut down to 2.5 hours and still told the same story. Like, they didn't need to bring Joss in, because I look at this film and I see 40% of it as filler. And that's what annoys me. I think the reason why it's so long is this is kind of just like Zack saying, well, do you want my vision? Well, here's literally everything. But it annoys me calling it the Snyder Cut when nothing was cut out. Like there's not one, but two scenes that's sole purpose is to explain why Batman can, in the third scene, block Superman's laser. Nearly all the new scenes involving Batman are simply just him working in the Nightcrawler or his gloves. That does not add to the story. I think all the new scenes to do with Aquaman don't really add anything and could have easily been cut. I think The Flash had a few scenes that could have been cut. Most of the changes really, in all honesty, most of the changes come in the final action scene and the way things are set up in the first part. You want to say something? Continue.
No, I'm not going to hit back or anything. I think I just want to kind of like interject there and say, I think the general consensus is, and I agree with you, I think the general consensus is that there is an amazing 3-hour cut there somewhere. Like, you know, you can do and a 3-hour releasable cut. I think that if Marvel if Disney allowed Endgame to be 3 hours, I think Warner Brothers would have allowed, you know, a 3-hour cut of Justice League to be released in cinemas.
Honestly, I think Endgame is a little bit longer than it needs to be as well. And I think I would enjoy but at least with Endgame, all the scenes, like, they serve a purpose. I feel like a lot of the scenes in the first hour, especially of this cut, a lot of them don't serve a purpose. The biggest exception, of course, is the Cyborg stuff. Like, if it wasn't for Cyborg in this cut, I would be singing even more harsher tune. Cyborg alone, I finally understand. Great. Like, Ray Fisher, like, I get why he was so pissed off. Like, I know there was, like, some other shit, like, where he has definitely the right to be pissed off about, but he really got handed the short end of the stick with the Joss cut.
Imagine this being the big breakout movie for your career, right? And, like, you putting in such an intense performance, and you sit down and you're like, all right, I'm gonna tighten my bootstraps and really act, and then you get the short shift. Yeah.
He got robbed. And I would even say, I forget his name, the guy who plays his dad, he had some great scenes, especially towards the end.
Oh, you mean fuck, I'm forgetting his name.
He's a really well-known actor too.
I keep calling him Miles Dyson in my head, dude.
Is it? That's not Glover. It's the other Miles Dyson. I'll just call it Miles Dyson. Fair enough. But yeah,
all I know is that he should not be around robotic things.
Yes. Good call. Look, I think Cyborg, he's what sort of justifies the existence of Zack's vision. If it wasn't for him, I'd say this is 100% the exact same movie, because structurally it is the same, in my opinion. Like,
structurally, yeah. I didn't think that was a surprise.
That actually surprised me. Like, when I heard there was a 4-hour cut of a 2-hour movie, like, I'm thinking they've done some crazy shit in the editing bay and really moved things around. And when I was like, oh, this fight follows this and this scene follows that, I was really surprised. I also got to say, and I'm going to get some hate mail for this, but I think Superman was portrayed better.
No one sends us mail.
Yeah, that's right. I think Superman was portrayed better in Joss's version. I really, the best part about Joss's cut was the hopeful return in tone to Superman, ignoring the horrible CGI, of course. And I was really missing that in this version. Like, the little things, like the lines, like, it's like, well, I believe in truth and justice, or like the little shit, like him talking to the kids in the beginning. Like, I missed stuff like that because
bad scene.
Well, regardless,
but I agree with your sentiment though.
Yeah, like I just wish. Like, Superman is meant to be our hope. That's what Zack set up in Man of Steel, right? With the whole S and stuff. I wish that was more prevalent here. And I don't care. You could keep the black suit if you want. But yeah, and like, look, I still don't like, in both versions, I don't like the way they brought him back to life. I just think it was done better in this version, because at least with the explaining of creation, it seems a little less weird and creepy. I still don't like the idea that he's a zombie. I wish they came up with a better creative way. And that's kind of how I feel for most stuff. I think everything is a little bit better for the most part, but there's also a lot of shit that doesn't need to be there, which is unfortunate. Something else I really liked, something that no one does, like, of all the shit people say nice about this film, here's one thing no one talks about that I actually liked about this. Well, actually, I'll follow it with a criticism and a compliment. I don't like how extra violent they made Wonder Woman. I actually, it's not that I don't like it, it's just I don't care for it. But what I do really like is that, and I'm very surprised Joss cut this stuff out, but there are little things she says here and there which make Gal Gadot's performance feel more Wonder Woman-y, and it makes you wonder, why would they cut them out? Like, little things, like in the beginning with the bank scene, she calls a civilian girl a princess when she's royalty herself. Like, that's sweet. That's such a sweet. And then, like, when she's like, I belong to no one, like, this is the stuff that makes Wonder Woman, and it surprises me that of all the things they could have cut, that was the stuff Joss cut. Like, that really surprised me. Like, I think Joss, what he was given a very, it's not fair to criticize him for a lot of the decisions, because I think there's like for any abuse on set, yeah, fuck that guy, fuck him. But like, the way he cut down the story, unsubstantiated, yeah, allegedly fuck him. But like, the way that he cut down the script structurally,
allegedly fuck him.
I want to see you use that in court one day, man. But so yeah, good. The way how structurally, from a script perspective, it was cut down, that's a masterclass in itself. I think that should be really commended. But those lessons could have been applied here. to create like what I would consider to be the best version of this cut. And so I think that's really disappointing. But while I was as an editor really impressed and surprised by some of the choices here, and like I feel like I could learn from that, I felt very bored for especially the first half of this movie. And it just goes to show the poor judgment from Warner Brothers. And you could argue this is a good argument for why they should have never fired Zack in the first place. But the idea of having Justice League as a way to introduce all these characters, terrible. Like the fact that you got to think about it. There's no origin story for Wonder Woman or Batman, and maybe Aquaman. You could argue either way, but we get basically a mini origin story for Cyborg and Flash. Like that makes no sense to me. Why do these characters get so much extra screen time?
Well, we know Batman's origin story, right? I mean, like it's the same reason we don't need Spider-Man's orign story in the MCU.
It feels uneven. It feels uneven. Like, and the fact, and they already had to set up that in Batman v Superman. I think the best way I heard describing this is I saw a bit from Stephen Colbert before he did a terrible sketch, but he was like, so Joss Whedon cut was criticized heavily, so this is a longer version of an already like unliked movie, and like that's what it feels like to me. Like while there are some minor changes, I feel like all the improvements, with the exception of Cyborg, are mostly minor. And also another exception, I will say, I do find it interesting how through the use of editing, of pacing, the music and color grading, they were able to change the tone so dramatically in both cuts. And I found that very interesting. Also, I think this goes without saying, the action scenes, a lot of them are a lot better being longer the way they are.
So much better, yeah.
Especially that first fight with the League versus Steppenwolf. Like seeing Wonder Woman fight him without the interruptions, it felt a lot smoother, which surprised me. I thought Aquaman's entrance here was a little less dramatic, but
I thought it was sick. Like you kind of like see his shadow in the water. Yeah, look, dude, I don't think any of your criticisms are unfounded or like, you know, unreasonable.
Thank you.
There is something
because I'm scared I'm gonna get hate mail.
No, I think you'll be fine, dude. But like, I mean, look, it's a fucking movie, right? I mean, like, you know, it's fine. I liked it. Like, this is one of those movies where I think just the excess of it and like there's just so much happening, and it's so big and bold and epic. I think I'm overlooking a lot of things, and I'm more than happy to admit that. But you know,
I think that's more than most. I think so. So my hat's off to you.
But like, yeah, I think you are right. It's just you need to suit the filmmaker's narrative, right? So like, I'm talking about when you're referring to Superman in Joss Whedon's version. Zack was setting Superman up to eventually be the Injustice Superman, right? So like, in his cut, it didn't make sense for him to be evil at the end like good at the end of the movie, or have good values or whatever. I agree with you that that's not what Superman is traditionally. For me, the more interesting part is the Injustice Superman, though, because I don't come from the comics, right? I mean, like I don't come from any other background other than what I'm being presented with. So seeing, you know, this Boy Scout who has been corrupted because his girlfriend has been murdered, that's really interesting to me. Like, because I haven't seen it yet. Do you know what I mean?
See, I could get more behind that if the first half of the movie set him up as a Boy Scout to have him have a fall for grace. But the thing is, we've only seen him be Boy Scout in Man of Steel. Even in Batman v Superman, he's pretty, you know, jaded and grim, and I feel like
he
Zack's
saves
style,
people and stuff, right? I mean, like in Batman vs Superman, and
it's not the same though. Like here's the thing. Like first of all, I used to love Zack Snyder. Dawn of the Dead was one of my favorite movies as a teen. 300, I think, is underrated classic and should be like put in a vault and remembered 200 years from now. Watchmen, everybody, you know, I've never met someone who doesn't like Watchmen. Ever since he's went down the DC route, like he just keeps trying to go edgier and darker. And for everyone except Batman, I feel like it ruins the characters. And I feel like he's made steps in the right directions with like in other stuff, like Justice League. In terms of tone, he's starting to get where a place where I could like him again. It's just, don't give me a 4-hour movie. Cut it down to 2 hours or 2.5.
I think 3. I think it's at 3 because like there are, and I keep wanting to make a point, but you keep bringing up points that I'm like kind of like talking about now.
You're right.
I was watching it today actually, and there is a, it's that moment when they're all on the roof meeting with Commissioner Gordon, and Flash is the last one left, and he's like, wow, they really just disappear. And he disappears, right? And then they linger on like a 10 to 15 second shot of like Gordon reacting to that. You didn't need that long of a shot kind of thing,
exactly.
right? Like it's like, I do, I agree. But like here's the point I was going to make.
Oh, sorry, go.
Oh, this is going to launch into a whole other thing, so you can make whatever, you can respond to it.
I'll just quickly say the only people I've seen with like sort of agreeing along my lines was the podcast The Weekly Planet, and they were saying stuff. They had this theory where they're like, because Zack was like, well, you want me, well, he's literally everything. It's like there must have been like they're like there must be some policy in the editing room where it's like every frame we can give him we will.
Yeah.
And so we cut off nothing. And that's why you get like scenes like Lois Lane looking through all the clothes and the wardrobe thinking what would be the best in Superman, and then she walks all the way over to him and then gives it to him, and it's like, you could have cut that out. Like, it's 10 seconds.
Yeah, there are moments where you can make sort of edits. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, look, but I don't ding the movie for that, like, kind of thing, because I can watch a long movie, right? I mean, whatever.
I will ding it if it hits 4 hours. No movie, I've never seen a movie that can justify a 4 hour. Okay, with Lord of the Rings, the point of Lord of the Rings is that it is long. Okay, you got me with Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings is the only one that can justify.
But here's the thing, this feels... Man, like I don't know how I'm going to justify this, but this feels like a Lord of the Rings kind of like scale, kind of like, I know you're shaking your head. I know you're shaking your head, but like, listen to me, like the scale of this feels like it should be on that level. And I think the runtime, in my opinion, justifies that. Because it's just, again, just the scale of it is huge. It should not be a 2 hour movie. It should, like, dude, when I saw that Warner Brothers mandated a 2 hour runtime for Joss Whedon's cut, I was like, you're fucking kidding me. Like, this is going to be shorter than Batman vs. Superman. Are you kidding me?
Well, Batman vs. Superman was long and boring, even longer. It felt longer and felt boringer.
Yeah,
which is actually
Justice League,
a credit to this. It's a credit to Justice League. But I think the fact is there's not enough plot points for this movie to justify the runtime. Like it's still the same beats as a 2 hour film. That means your film doesn't have much going on. Like, if there was an extra action scene in the first hour and a half, I would take almost all this shit back, because at least you got some element to justify this existence.
There's no additional plot points. Yeah, there's no additional plot points, but I think I disagree with you about it not being a deep movie. I think instead of plot points, they spend more time with the characters. We get
and to some characters it works.
Yeah, absolutely. All of the plot points basically were already in Joss Whedon's cut, just kind of like sort of thinned out, right? Like they were like much thinner. But we spent a lot more time with the characters here that I really appreciated. And in the end, when they're finally having this battle with Steppenwolf, I was a bit more invested because we'd spent a lot of time with these characters already. That makes sense.
Yeah, but I feel
I still
like
haven't made my point. By the way. I'm holding on to this.
That's right. It's because you get going, but I know. There are some characters, like the time we're spending with them, I feel like is not valuable. Like, I don't think Wonder Woman has any new backstory added. Yeah. So Batman, and I think the same with probably Aquaman maybe. But yeah, that's how it is. Sorry, what was the other point you wanted to bring up? That's going to launch a whole new conversation. Is it Jared Leto? Because I feel like that's a conversation.
No. I feel like we can hold the Jared Leto conversation. I don't really know what to make of it yet. Because I told you I watched it twice. I lied. I haven't watched the epilogue twice. I've seen that once. But one of the things that I kind of appreciate about the Joss Whedon cut, and I disagree with you about the Superman thing, because I just appreciate. I think I like the darker Superman the better. One of the things I appreciated about the Joss Whedon version over the Snyder version is the way, and it's kind of minor to your point, but the way Lois Lane arrives at the scene to save Superman, because in Joss Whedon's version, it's made known that it's Batman who deliberately lured Lois Lane out to help them out. And I thought for a second that that's where it was going, but it's not. She's only there because she brings cups of coffee to his monument every day. And by happenstance, she's there. Like, it feels a lot stronger. It really adds to the character of Batman that he thought of that, that he did that in advance, because he's supposed to be the smartest of them all, right? Like, he's supposed to be the most intelligent.
Weirdly, it's probably the most Batman-y thing in both versions, which is not what you'd expect. But to go the other way around, like, you'd think that would be Zack's idea. It's not surprising to see that there. The Zack cut, though, has that amazing sequence of him trying to get to Batman and everyone protecting him. Like, that, I don't know. It seems like that's like, why did Joss cut that out? That was so good.
Sorry, what was that? I missed that.
Superman he sees Batman and he goes to attack him, but then everybody keeps getting in his way. That was a great way of building stakes. Like, why would Joss cut that out? It makes no sense. But on the flip of what you just said, there's a joke that I fucking hate in both versions, and I was so positive it was Joss's idea, but it must have been Zack's, is when Flash goes, "What's your superpower?" and he goes, "I'm rich." Like, that line is the worst line but like, it annoys me because it feels like it's breaking the fourth wall.
I don't hate that because, you know, we got fucking the whole Pet Cemetery bullshit in the Joss Whedon one. Yeah, that was Dostoevsky and all that bullshit, and just
I will say, it made me realize, this cut made me realize how unfunny Joss Whedon is. Although I'm the one person on the planet who liked the definitely bleeding line. Like, I know that part, if you want to hate me for it, I get it, because it does feel a bit out of tone. But there are so many, even like ones of like Flash falling on Wonder Woman. It's like, what are you trying to do with that, dude? Like, it's a lot of Joss's jokes really weren't funny. And seeing how little of them were in this cut made me realize, oh man, like, that dude.
He's not funny. Yeah. What was your favorite scene in the movie? I mean, like, just because I gave mine with the Flash scene, that's all.
Sorry, which one was yours? Him going back in time.
Him going back in time and kind of like, I mean, I only asked because, like, the movie feels, it feels like a series of scenes and set pieces that kind of like add up to the big battle.
I think what does add for that is the fact that we've seen another version, and it's cool to compare the two. I think all the actions, for the exception of the fight on Themyscira, I think all the fights are better. The fight on Themyscira it felt a bit, the whole it falling down kind of ruined the flow for me, but that's a personal taste thing. All the other fights definitely, I think, were better. If I had to go by scene, I can't believe, like, I don't know if I might change my opinion, but Diana calling that girl princess just really stood out to me as a great character.
That was in the trailer, dude, and I was like, that's going to be a good moment.
Was it?
Yeah, because like, you see her kind of like leaning down to the girl, and I'm just like, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I think also I really like the cyborg scenes, particularly his dad dying and his reaction to it.
That was good, man, because I was like, what is he doing with this laser? And, you know, that was really smart, actually, turns out, like that whole sacrifice.
It's bizarre that Joss went to such lengths to remove the emotional core of the film, especially since the film doesn't have a lot other than surface level stuff. Like, when you take that out, you kind of do lose anything that makes the movie stand out. I can think of things I hate. What else did I like? I really liked, I'm gonna go with that Diana's line there.
Nice.
Just quick fire around a few things that come to mind that I didn't like as well. I don't care for Martian Manhunter. I think the fact that he was Lois Lane in that scene actually takes away from the scene. I don't care for the fact that there's 500 scenes in the epilogue, but I can live with that. Actually, that's the big one. It's really the Martian Manhunter thing. It annoys me how useless it was. But look, let's wrap it up there because we could be here forever. And I'm getting hungry. I want some dinner. But look, overall, I do think, I want to say, just so I don't get murdered, I do think this cut is better. It's a better movie. It's a shittier viewing experience. And I can't wait for someone to cut this version down to 3 hours because that, in my opinion, will be the perfect Justice League cut that we need.
Yeah, I echo your thoughts while somewhat being like, I'm okay with it being at 4 hours. I mean, like, only because my tolerance for this is kind of pretty high. If you have a score as good as, you know, Junkie XL's kind of thing, and, you know, it's filmed pretty well. It's a beautiful looking movie, I think, in my opinion. So yeah, look, guys, if you want to listen to more about Zack Snyder's Justice League, we do plan on releasing a bonus episode coming up very shortly. So keep an eye on our socials. If you want to know where our socials are, just scroll down. They're right there in your Spotify or your Apple iTunes. But yeah, the after party is on Facebook, at Midnight Double Feature on Instagram, at MDF Pod on Twitter. You can always email us, midnightdoublefeature@gmail.com. And please support the show. We're independent podcasters. Head to patreon.com/Midnight Double Feature to support us. Matt, do you have any closing thoughts before we head out?
It's been a long one, but a good one. Actually, yeah. But thanks for hanging out with us, guys. We love you so much, so much, so much. And yeah, let's leave it at that. Let's keep it easy this time.
Cool. Thank you so much, guys. We'll catch you guys on the next episode of Midnight Double Feature.